All right, hello everyone. We're back for Wednesday night Nebulous nonsense. So I'm gonna load up into the multiplayer side of things and go ahead and take a look, see if there's any games up right now. Let's get that desktop audio turned on so y'all can hear the lovely Nebulous soundtrack. Yeah, looking to just play some in public lobbies. Oop, that's the wrong mute key there. Anyways, let's take a look at what is up right now. So there's a couple lobbiys still in progress. I checked earlier. Yep, bunch of the area official servers going up there. Might do a little spectating, might do a little playing. See some killboard players hanging out around the place. Saw a couple people in some of the chat rooms as well going off. So there's people on ladder tonight, and we're going to be looking to either spectate or play. Just going to quick refresh here. Obvious bot testing one just kind of showing up. We're going to hop into... Ooh, they've got a modded 6K going, so that's interesting. We're going to hop into killboard and just sit in the spectator slot for a little bit here, just waiting to see what people go for. Just go ahead and load up the map. I got myself a nice warm cup of coffee, as it is a little bit chilly and rainy where I'm at in the part of the world. So get yourselves a warm beverage, or cold if you prefer it. Something to eat, and we'll just sit tight and wait for people to show up real quick. Yeah. Killboard matches are some of the fun ones to spectate, because you get to see some of the players who want to try and grind that killboard ladder ranking and other things just show up and give their best. It is very interesting seeing some of the more competitive players in this game and what special techniques they'll bring and what builds and stuff. You can learn a lot from watching some of the more... Sweaty has kind of like a negative connotation, but some of the more experienced seasoned players, the Commodores and above, seeing what they bring to the field. I'm going to go ahead and see who else is around, checking on the Discord, see if there's anyone in a call that wants to hop in on Nebulous nonsense and whatnot. In the meantime, we'll just sort of sit, hang out, Nebulobby, Fleet Command, and all that. Lobbies are, of course, open. Don't want to play with closed password-protected things. That would be a little exclusionary to those who want to get involved in the game. Fire off a couple of messages while we wait. All right. I think that as long as we're here, we can probably hop into a slot and then just check out some of the fleet editing. Just load up a arbitrary fleet here. Yeah, just something like that. Take a look in the editor about some of the other things I'd done. So I was toying around with the idea of a pair of 250 SLs, kind of like a discount Vauxhall fleet, and I did like them, although I noticed that I was not able to knock out certain heavier ships, such as the Axford or Battleship. So I came up with the idea of grabbing a sort of hybrid form of it, which was... not here. What did I call them, actually? Yes, the Brawl Brothers, being Mario and Luigi. I thought it was clever. So in this case, I took the same idea of having the topside 250 guns, and I equipped them with a bottom side 450. So they still have the same potential of being a close-range aggressive brawling fleet. Reason being is that I do not have anywhere in the ship a gun plotting center, so my ranged advantage is kind of lacking there, although I do have the ability to touch stuff out to 11 kilometers if I have a good lock. That said, even with a good lock, the margin of error on the Mark 66... the Mark 66 cannon, it's still not the most accurate. 87 meters at 10 kilometers, you're not going to be hitting very many things. You need at least one gun plotting center to reliably hit your targets, and even with a perfect lock, because 87 meters at that distance is a pretty wide margin of error. That said, if you get a little closer, such as the 5 kilometer range, you've got 44 meter error, which is acceptable. I would love to squeeze a gun plotting center into this, but unfortunately we are heavily limited by our crew count in that case. I would need to add another berthing or use one of these slots as a berthing to then get it. Plus, the gun plotting center is fairly fragile. So just little things I might be working on doing. I'm just going to hop back into spectator spot here, just hoping to have the lobby fill up, and then we'll go about doing things from there. Yeah. Meantime, I'm going to take a lovely slurp of my coffee and eat a little bit of my snack that I got for this evening. Seeing some more players filling up here. Generally, once you see a lobby starting to fill up, people will happily hop in. You'll see plenty of 6 out of 8 lobbies quickly fill up as people want to grab those last 2 slots. But when it's just like 1 or 2 players, they might take a little bit to trickle in. Kind of an exponential return on that. We saw there's about 3 or 4 games going on the area officials. So once those wrap up, and I don't know however long it takes for them to wrap up, we should see plenty of people trickle in. Meantime, we'll just play the waiting game and get ourselves another couple players going in here. We're going to be in the spectator slot, just watching as things go down on Yukon, providing some live commentary of the killboard games. This is some good coffee. Good coffee on a cold, rainy day. Lovely thing to have. I'd say I'm more of a coffee fan than a tea fan, but I like both. both your bean water and your leaf water have their places and whatnot. See the ANS team currently filling up here. We got Banshee just needing to load up the map. Most likely in the fleet selector. Yeah, I see them hopped into the editor trying to pick their toys. I'll be showing 7 of 8 on the outside lobby selector, so this shouldn't be too long before we get a 6th and 7th player to fill out the OSP side of Yukon. Yukon itself, a very interesting map, as it has kind of a big, long iceberg dividing the middle. It creates essentially 2 sides of the map. The left side, well, I guess right side, depending on how you view it, is 2 control points with a direct line towards each other. So you typically will see one player kind of control that side of the map. And then you'll usually see a 3 stack of players on the other where they had to fight over the 3 control points they've got there. Wolfpack just dipping out, maybe checking the other servers that are up right now. We'll just be waiting, hanging around for the lobby to fill up and then go from there. Yeah. Meantime, though, while we have a moment, again, make sure you've got yourself a beverage, something to eat, something to drink, all that stuff. Because we are in for some Nebulous fun tonight. I've got, I think, maybe 2, possibly 3 games in me before I have to go off and do other stuff. So then I'll probably pass you off to someone like Vivi if she's streaming. Or maybe if she's not streaming, I might get another one in. I don't know. I like hanging out with some of the friends in the Nebulous community. It's very welcoming to people. That's good coffee. Cat boys can have a little coffee as a treat. We can also have a little salami, too. So, we're just waiting for the teams to fill up here. So if you would like to star on the show, Killboard USA servers, 3K ANS versus OSP Yukon map. Right now, there is 3 slots open on OSP. You might even get an ANS slot if you can ask politely, and then somebody will swap over for you. So we'll just wait and hanging out for now. Yeah. Little happy wiggles back and forth. Yeah. Mr. Pickles joining in. Let's see if they got an OSP fleet or not. Yeah. So, of course, your standard match is going to be the ANS versus OSP, although it is kind of fun to watch ANS versus ANS mirrors or OSP versus OSP mirrors. Then there's certain modded factions you can bring in, which brings a whole nother level of the interactions. The standard for the game is ANS versus OSP, and it is a nice, enjoyable asymmetrical balance. Each side has its own unique toys that they can bring to bear. Something like the OSP has its very cheap shuttles that can quickly dominate the map's cap game. But then the ANS, in turn, has its various fast attack cruisers, like the light cruiser with its devastating 250 guns. RPF absolutely shreds through shuttles that try and make their way out of cover and onto cap points. You've also got the hybrid missile threat versus the OSP's defense against it, being either the Grazer or AMM spam. Yeah, it's just nice seeing all the different toys that can go around. Ooh, we've seen a 12K loaded up here. Okay. Balls on this dude. You know what? We might be able to see a 12K. So, for those of you who don't know, occasionally you will see a 12K fleet square off against 4 players with 3K. Typically, you'll end up needing a modded fleet for this, as you require to, I say not exactly require, but most of the time you'll see more than 10 ships in a single player's 12,000 point fleet. But if we want to see a 4 versus 1 here, we might actually end up getting an ANS team seeming like they might be down for it. Let's see it. Oop. Getting another person joining in. We'll see if they go for it or not. You might see them just drop off 2 of their points. Oop, quickly dipping out. So this is part of the problem when you see a full match. Some people want to play ANS, some people want to play OSP. So if they see one team is completely full, they might dip out, expecting it to be either a pre-made or just not the faction that they want to play. So, people coming and going, as it were. Make it a 9K. Just scrub your container liner or something and go from there. Yeah. That is one of the other interesting factors you can do commanding big fleets like that. Normally, something like a container liner or a missile fleet is limited by the 3K points. But if you're commanding, say, a 6K or above, then you can put an absurd amount of points into some of your missile fleet, such as a container liner worth 4.5 thousand, or 4.5 thousand, that's a little expensive, 4.500 points. Or, no, wait, hang on, 4.5 thousand, I think that was right. 450, 4,500, whatever, you know what I mean by this. It's more than the average 3K matchup you would see. So now we're seeing the match lining up here as we're getting everyone equipped in their various fleets. We got ourselves a Gold Commodore, a very high rank in the match, scoring off against a fellow captain such as myself. We got a couple blue ranks as well, so anyone is welcome on the kill board. You just have to try, as it is the kind of, well, a little more competitive side of the server. So just gonna wait and see. Oop, Switchblade dripping out here. Might be hopping and seeing if there's any other servers, but eventually we will get a Nebula lobby, and it will be good. Yeah. If I do the magical head wiggle that I do in MechWarrior Online to find a match, maybe it'll work in this. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Could ask if they have a 6K. Might work. Come on, Nebulous Fleet Command, go, go, go! We have another one. Chibi coming back in again. Let's see if they got OSP. Oop, they're hopping Spectator. Might be asking to see if a ANS player wants to swap over. I know there are some faction purists or people who want to try out a certain fleet that they may have made for a team. Switchblade coming in now. Let's see if we got ourselves a proper 4K. Oop, Spectators filling up in that. They might just be watching. I was planning on just casting this one, but they are also debating about going to a 5v5, probably looking for that ANS team slot. I know there are some people who prefer playing ANS over OSP, and likewise some people who are OSP enthusiasts versus the ANS side. That's going to change the map to Sailor, which is okay with me. Load it up here now. Sailor, nice big 5 versus 5 map. I think that there's a 10-player limit. I might have to dip out of this one or actually join up on a team then. So I could take up arms here, but I was feeling like just kind of casting the first one, giving people a bit of an introduction, and then maybe getting my hands dirty and joining up on a team. If they go back to Yukon, might have to swap the teams around a little bit. Just waiting for one more on the OSP side here. See them talking about going trader. It depends entirely on your perspective. Personally, I would say that both factions kind of fit my fancy. I do enjoy playing ANS, as I enjoy their sort of more militaristic ships. They've got a couple of fun toys. Same with the OSP. They've got very good intel in the form of the new cargo monitor. It's able to fit an intel center along with early warning radar and Bloodhound with some pretty good track correlators and adaptive radar receivers. So, might want to unready that, since I'm not entirely sure that they... Oh, no, okay, they've got a 6K. They've got this. Good luck, have fun. So, we're going to go live casting. Mosaman, the mad lad, is bringing in 6K points. Oop, see them just getting ready up here. Probably kind of same false start that I had, where I was thinking, oh no, this is going to be a 4v3. Let's go ahead and see the game kicking off on Yukon. Neb Killboard stats to win it. So just load in a quick second here. Once we're into the match, I will introduce the players and their fleets as we see them deploying onto Yukon. I'll also give you a quick overlay of the map and just kind of the way that it tends to play out. That said, just the typical way of a map playing out is not the way you will always see it. Nebulous has a lot of freedom on how you can deploy and approach your problems. Most of the time, you'll see people sort of change their plans, like, generally as soon as they make contact with the enemy, depending on what you end up facing and how you have to position yourself. It's not strict like, say, League of Legends, where you've got your lane that you have to play in for, the first 20 minutes of the game and then change out. You've got a lot more freedom in three-dimensional space. Finish the nameplates. You can see in the loading screen here the mighty container liner shedding its same-day delivery boxes, no doubt off to cause somebody a bad day. Alright, so, as I was saying, this is Yukon. We can see it in the tactical view. So we got this large mass of ice taking up the middle section of the map. You've got the D point and the E point, this going, I believe, to the OSP team. And then for the ANS, they've got their C point and B point here, kind of being the two naturals. This side is your kind of natural deployment, where you take each of these points, and then you can sometimes have a skirmish down this sort of lane here that emerges on the sides of the rock. And then you'll see on the other side, you've got 3 points here to contest. So you have the A point, center of the map. Typically see somebody run a shuttle or corvette right down that and have an immediate little skirmish off there. You get the C point high, typically going ANS as you see them deploying up here, and the OSP deploying low, going for the E point. If we flip the map over, you'll notice these are very symmetrical in terms of their positioning. So natural positions, kind of for the ANS to go high, OSP to go low, and then take it from there. You'll see probably them deploy onto this side, capture their points, and then either push up or decide to cross over and try and engage onto the A. So we're going to see how the game will play out. Seeing a couple fleets here coming in. We've got the various prefixes corresponding to the players, who we will introduce once the game is loaded into, and we can give you a a showing of what they're showing down with. See the forces here kind of deciding where they want to deploy. A lot of them grouping up for the kind of D side. They might go for a flank overload, pushing down this, grabbing the B side, and then playing along the top of the rock here, going over or under. Plenty of options on how you want to deploy and play this. We see the ANS kind of spreading out all over the place here, picking various different deploy angles. We can't see the circles that are the deployment limits, but trust me when I say that there is a circle on both sides that they can deploy into. That way you don't drop into your enemy's deploy zone, which, while it would be kind of exciting to see, would also lead to a lot of very short, very spicy games, particularly when torpedoes start coming into play. If you get within launching distance of a torpedo ship, you are going to be in for either a very good or very bad time, depending how strong your point defense is. Either way, we see our ships coming in now. The retro thrusters firing off as they come out of these. I'm not sure if it's faster than light travel, but the speedy mode that is outside of the typical battle space. We're seeing a trifecta of ships dropping in there. Might be a bunch of light cruisers or possibly destroyers. Let's introduce our players in a moment here. All right, so let's start off. So we have here a trio of light cruisers belonging to Bose Banshee, seeing what are those, 250 guns on them. So pretty standard 3CL fleet. Nice, robust firepower there. High mobility, good at flanking. For EQ, we have a mighty missile CL. Ooh, look at this thing with all of its VLS-2s. So we're seeing a huge number of VLS-2s on that. What do they got? A bunch of size 2 hybrid missiles. So this is the kind of equivalent of a container liner, but for the ANS side. A lot of hybrid spam, very good at taking out shuttles, although the size 2 missile is fairly fragile, only 25 health, making it actually more fragile than the regular size 2 missile. So, for some of the big guns, we have a nice heavy cruiser here. We see it's got itself a little bit of missile package as well, but the 7 barrels of 450 fun here for polymorphous neuroid. That's a mouthful. Backing it up for some light fast attack, we have a CL, so the classic heavy and light pairing here, a fast attack ship in order to dominate some of the smaller enemies versus the big old 450s, which are being brought to bear against the mighty liners and occasionally the cargo feeders. And then lastly, rounding it out, we have the End here with a big old cap fleet of various sprinter corvettes. We see some of them with torpedoes most likely on the bottom. Let's get a look on that. Yep, the size 3 missile, the mighty Pilum. If you get torpedoed, you will feel it. Do not underestimate how good torps are, especially with the missile changes giving them very good armor. So, taking a look around the map, we will see that teams are kind of deploying towards their points here and going for their objectives. Let's introduce the OSP side. So, for the Ruffians, starting with Dow's Fire 641, we have a Ocello, the 450 package on this thing, along with the Aurora point defense turrets and the Bullseye fire control lock. A good command ship for the OSP, providing a very good PD for a fleet. You'll see this as typically the centerpiece, and what we have supporting it is exactly that. No doubt this is going to be the kind of centerpiece providing PD for these smaller cargo feeders here. We see a bunch of these small 100mm guns equipped on these, along with some Bastion flak defenses. Let's see, we should most likely see it's another T-30 and 100mm boat. I believe one of these would be plasma, no? No, just going for the straight 100mm package. So this is very good against the light targets that you'll notice sometimes being brought by the ANS side. So this can be a devastating threat to anything that is a destroyer, a frigate, or a corvette, as they do not have enough armor to hold up to these small 100mm guns that will pepper you and most likely crit out your systems. For Mo Simon, we have the 6K fleet here, a quartet of Ocellos. That is a lot of 450. So ANS team is going to have a lot of big guns firing at them. They're going to have to rely on their fast attack and mobility to play here, as a lot of the OSP's points have been put into bringing in these big Ocellos. That said, their point defense is a little bit lacking on the laser side, so that size 2 hybrid boat is probably going to have a good day against these, since without the counter to hybrid missiles that you typically will see aboard these. Seeing some chaff deployed there. Let's see, yep, a couple of scouting shots here being fired off to begin with. Seeing some light damage. Ooh, actually a really good hit. Ah, the Sun Drive. A fragile beast if there ever was one. Only 100 health on this drive, and it is a very big target in that slot. So I'm going to see that quickly go out. Lastly, we have Piggles here, bringing in the 6th Ocello. So it is, all Ocellos for the OSP side. Kind of surprised they went with the Sun Drive. I would normally expect a large Whiplash here, given that it has much more health and power. Sun Drive typically something you'll see on shuttles or tugs, just to get them quickly onto a point. Piggles coming in with a couple of the small sort of shuttles around the place, getting a good map control. So, OSP going for the big guns, trying to win through the firepower front, versus the ANS bringing in some cap shuttles, trying to play the wide game. Most likely going to see a bit of cat and mouse. Normally, it's the other way around, so we have an interesting reversal. The C point already going to the ANS, as is expected. The E point trying to be contested as well. We're seeing a T-30 and, I believe it's T-30. Yes, the T-30 and C-30 cannons, 100 mils firing off against the ship. You're going to see now the first torpedo coming out here, Let us see how this goes down, because this ship does not have adequate defense against torpedoes. Flak will not cut it here. You need defenders or grazers or something of that like. Oop, it is a swing and a miss on the first one, not getting a good lock, possibly not in the army distance or having a bad seeker. There's the second swing and a miss. All right, so good stuff so far. Those Pilums not hitting target. Let's see if the ship can hold it up. It might be that they were command guided, possibly knocked the antenna out or less power. I'm not... Ooh, I think that might be it. I think, yes, those must have been command guided. And the CIC taken out, they lose their tracking and guidance system. So, very lucky swing for the OSP. They're taking the E point initially. The first blood is going to go to ANS naturally. Those shuttles getting whacked very quickly by the hybrid missile swarm that we are seeing here. Going to see some hybrid missiles coming after a quartet of Acellos. Actually, a quintet of Acellos, as all 5 of them moving up heavily here for the D side push. Going to see what these things will send out of them. Here we see them now staging, zooming towards their target. Chaff is popped, but it is not enough. Wham, wham, wham into the stump. We are seeing heavy damage inflicted upon this thing. The front guns being heavily crippled, although not knocked out, thanks to the very good damage reduction provided by the Acello hull. Although the large DC lockers in the front of the ship are down and out. They'll have to be restored, but ooh, that is all of the restores on this ship. Any damage you see in knockouts is now permanent on this thing, so that is bad news bears for that ship. Let's take a look around. We see some more size 2 hybrids going out across the map. Most likely looking for any ship that is kind of just scattered about here. I wouldn't be surprised if they try and pepper a couple of these mines and other light areas with their RPF, since we did see a trio of CLs now moving around the flank, trying to get into the sides of those Acellos where they are a lot more vulnerable. But the quartet is moving forward aggressively, driving towards that B point, looking for anyone they can pick a fight with. Another volley of hybrid missiles coming out of the tubes now. Let's take a quick look around the map before we go anywhere. See Mouser here with the hybrid missile boat, I believe. Yes, no, this is a 250 CL. Ah, yes, so that's the 250 CL, the missile boat here for the Ecus Terra, deploying more and more of its missile strikes, trying to take out these Acellos. Now, size 2 hybrids, because of the way missile mechanics work and damage reduction, they cannot actually kill a lot of these ships. They just simply do not have the concentrated punch for it. But they can effectively combat kill them. Here we see multiple systems getting knocked out. The magazine is gone. The reactors are cooking off. Just heavy damage being inflicted to this group of Acellos. Just seeing lots and lots of damage across the board here already being inflicted. Rapid DC lockers, all that's left. There's no restores on this one either, so heavy damage being suffered by the OSP team to start off with. That said, the A point is starting to look like it's going to be contested. We have a bunch of the 100 millers gunning down the little shuttles here, the mighty Dark A-Cap, the name given to many a sacrificial corvette and shuttle sacrifice onto the A-Cap point. It's not uncommon to see either like 5 or 6 dead ships pile up on the central A-Cap, just given that teams will constantly try and throw them at them, hoping to get that last second cap and then force the enemy to take the initiative and recapture it. Here we see a bit of overkill being fired as this ship is dead. You can tell by the space oil, and after the ship has died, 30 seconds to be precise, you will see life pods emerging. Usually the sign when it is dead is, just being conscious enough to look for the space oil clouds that you see here. But there is the life pod, so we should see them ceasefire any second now. Yep, seeing the ceasefire order being given there. So the OSP is using its cargo feeders here, split off from its command ship, providing the kind of like map presence to contest here. Now, that said, we are seeing, again, more hybrids being fired off here. That said, the hybrids, while they may be very effective, they will not actually kill these incoming Acellos. So, they're going to have to eventually deal with them, which means that the heavy cruiser here, the mighty Axford, is going to have to bring its guns to bear and actually knock those out, as they can simply be pounded for pretty much ever. A unfortunate mistake here made by many people, myself included. Bringing the small whiplash drive when you think you bring the big one. If you bring the big whiplash drive, it has a very high amount of health and damage threshold, meaning that even the biggest guns will struggle to actually take out your drive, provided you always have a repair team on it. So, that said, we are seeing now the flanking CLs, since the OSPs have, well, they've been eating missile strikes pretty much the entire way going to B. I wouldn't be surprised if these CLs come out and decide, yes, looking at it right now, what's that? Martita U Burrows now getting hit in the flank. CLs doing what CLs do. Surprise, flank, and spank. Very damaging into the side of this ship here now. Now, Acellos are very good when bow tanking, but when they're hit from the side, they have only 30 centimeters of armor, and we are most likely going to see them switch over to HE any second now and just absolutely pepper the side of this thing. Ooh, yep, power is out on it. Unfortunately, that small whiplash drive coming back to haunt them. The reactors, the small dragonfly drive, and the boosted reactor are about to go down as well. They have to be very careful here. If they lose out on these large lockers, yes, that is a complete power loss here. So this ship is unfortunately stripped out and helpless and is at the mercy of these big, high explosive 250 guns. I say big, but it's more of a medium, relatively speaking. Still, it is not enough to stop the OSP's reckless advance towards the B point. There is nothing on this side of the map to contest them at the moment. Those CLs may be able to get some lucky shots into the side of the SLOs here, but they are not going to be a good match when the OSP finally wakes up, turns around, and provides return fire. That said, we are just seeing the OSP driving ahead, not returning fire here. I'm kind of surprised, actually. Normally, when you see the CLs emerge like this, you will see the rapid turning and burning against them. Seeing the guns turning to bear against, I'm not entirely sure what. I don't see an attack order issued here, so could possibly be a little lapse in micro, but either way, we're seeing the CLs doing their job, trying to swing back and capture the D point. Ooh, size 2 missile volley out here. These are squalls. I don't know if these are the true squalls, which are a home on jam type seeker, but we're seeing them going off towards the Mauser here, the gun CL, providing some withering fire against the various ships here. Let's see, are the AMMs good? We're seeing some missile on missile interception, anti-missile missiles versus true missiles. Squalls kind of bearing off. Looks like they're heading into the wall, not finding their target exactly. They're seduced. Yes, they are seduced by the active decoy. So very smart play here, deploying the active decoy and chaff, seducing the incoming seeker heads as they are going after the thing with radar. Most likely had A-red seekers, and this ship smartly turning off of its radar so it has no signature for them to read. Also the shaft clouds providing a very big target for them to instead be seduced onto. Anti-missile counterplay being very good here. Although we are seeing that SLO now bringing its 450 guns to bear. We're seeing the Mauser here having to instead bow tank this and rely on Nebulous drift command to dodge that incoming fire. That said, it is doing a good number against this here. Yes, so we see a now dead ship here. The 250 guns being very clutch for the ANS on this game. Ooh, 2 SLOs knocked out here as we're seeing both of them going down. This one, again, the small whiplash drive proving to be the Achilles heel of this SLO fleet. So that said, the OSP is taking the B point. ANS is currently in the lead with a 4 cap that is quickly changing into a 3 cap here. They are controlling this side of the map. That said, I don't believe that they have a good answer to these 2 SLOs over here, as there is only 1 Axford heavy cruiser. So if they get engaged in a gunfight, they're going to be at a serious disadvantage. We're seeing the 250 guns here. These will absolutely shred a light cruiser if they get within the 8-kilometer range and then start bringing their turrets to bear on its broadside. This ship is very fast and nimble, but only able to bow tank 1 SLO at a time. So remember, kids, a broadsided CL is a dead CL. We're seeing a reactor, not a reactor, a reinforced drive here with a big reactor. So only a single drive, not seeing the common Raider whip you'll often see on CLs, providing them with very fast and high speeds, acceleration and whatnot. We're seeing a reactor cook-off here from one of the shuttles. Those CLs now drifting around the backside, hitting the OSP as they quickly try and turn and maneuver. But that is a shot to the drive. It is out of here. They're having a reactor cook-off. Now, this is a very dangerous thing to have, as you see the work speed penalties building up here from both a fire and an atmosphere leak. So you will have to scram your reactors here. Otherwise, you are going to be cooking off into space. Bad news bears for the OSP. A big old missile strike coming in here. Wow, spelling devastating defeat here, most likely, as we're just seeing everything going critical. Reactors, drives, and everything else. A VLS cook-off as well, just to add cherry on top of it. The VLS can most likely be fixed in time because a magazine cook-off would be completely devastating for this ship. That said, we're seeing heavy damages inflicted on the OSP side. They're not out of the woods yet, as there is still plenty they can do in this game. Once these ships decide to commit into the fight and engage on the targets here, we're seeing the Axford heavy cruiser taking an aggressive stance, although not able to bring all of its guns to bear without presenting broadside. One of the downsides of the Axford heavy cruiser's mounting is the back turret is unfortunately not able to shoot through the sort of top conning tower here. We compare that to the SLO with its guns mounted here, here, and here. It is able to present a very thin forward target profile and trade incredible amounts of firepower against the Axford counterpart. Instead, we're seeing, some torpedoes coming out here. The command guided, will they be shot down? We're seeing Auroras and Defenders firing off, desperately trying to shoot down these incoming projectiles. Just battle short your stuff. There we go. 3 torpedoes defeated for this SLO. The Ionic Oxen doing its job. 30 meters a second. Look at this thing cook along. Reinforced drive, very hard to knock out. Double reactors to facilitate all the power that you're going to need for the various systems aboard the ship, namely the distinct Aurora advantage you have over the hybrids. We're seeing, I believe this has a turret on it. Yes, a dinky little that's a 120 millimeter gun. A little bit of a pop gun, very good at shooting down shuttles and doing some damage to tugs, although against something of this caliber, it is going to be struggling. That said, the OSP is also going to struggle to kill this target, as their 450 guns are going to overpen the small shuttle. The small Corvette. I get Corvette and shuttle mixed up a little bit, as they're kind of the equivalent on either side. You're seeing these shots here either missing or just whizzing right through the ship. Now, you might just occasionally notice a large hole where your head used to be. Don't worry about that. You'll just put it right back on. Yeah. It's very funny when you see a whole bunch of shells just blow entirely through a ship, and it should look like Swiss cheese, as in there's just no ship left here. It's just all penetrated and perforated and looks like a kitchen sponge. That said, we're seeing over here the overpens kicking in. I believe it's only 20% of the regular damage inflicted, and with high explosive, that's only the contact damage, not the improper like set and detonate damage. So OSP is struggling to deal with the smaller ship there, but we should see the other, where is it? Not the iconic Oxen. Yes, the Godly Jail. The 250s on this very effective against light targets, such as destroyers, frigates, and the mighty Corvette here that we saw heroically giving its all with its torpedoes. I believe it is out of torpedoes. Yes, it has expended the last of its payload, so it needs to run away now and hide, getting the cap game. So we are seeing now the ANS team taking the D point here, just backcapping on this side. The last of the heroic push of the Cellos here, unfortunately meeting their end as this one has been drived, the entire back section missing. They're desperately trying to get some of the systems back online, do not have the restorers needed for it. We're seeing a lot of damage being inflicted here. The bulk magazine most likely going to go down. The reinforced CIC desperately trying to hang on under the withering fire provided by the CLs. A very good combo of flank and spank here provided by the CLs here, coming up around the enemy's backside and just delivering withering fire into them as they try to make their advance towards the B point. The non-stop missile strikes proving to be the bane of these Ocellos, not being able to bring enough of the correct PD to counter that. So, just see as this ship probably is going to bear its last here. The CIC desperately holding on. It is protected by the just kind of general bulk of the ship, preventing some of the ship's projectiles impacting into it. But it won't be long before that last knockout blow is inflicted to that CIC. They're desperately trying to repair it, trying to keep these drives online of the reactors, just something to bring it back into the game. We see it was cooked by a reactor explosion here, giving it no armor, and oof. Unfortunately, that is going to be it for Mosman this game. The last of the Ocellos falling to the CLs. So, let's take a little look around the map here now. We're going to see, yes, again, the Ocellos squaring off against those very small ships. The 250 guns being much better than the 450 against tiny targets like this. That said, this Corvette, not as much of a threat, but is still a capping presence they will want to take out as they move to recapture part of the map. You can see the ANS is taking the lead here with 3-2 points. That said, the OSP, while taking heavy losses, 6,000 points down to be precise, they are still in the game as they have ships that are able to be restored and repaired here, seeing a lot of damage inflicted here, most likely a hybrid missile strike or something similar. That said, they are still holding on to the E point here, as well as the opportunity for them to go up and cap the C and A points. Seeing an Axford here pushing heroically onto the OSP side of the map, most likely looking for a good shot onto those Ocellos where it can bring all 7 of its barrels compared to the Ocello 6. Now, I will say that the ANS is slightly favored, given that a lot of their ships are still in the fight. That said, there's a question of what can exactly be done here, as some of their Sprinter corvettes are very mobile, but only carry a limited number of torpedoes, so it's possible that they will expend all of their payload into a number of the OSP's remaining ships and simply not inflict any damage. Speaking of inflicting damage, we're seeing very few missiles left here on the mighty EQ. It is firing off what it has got here, these hybrid missiles being pretty good, but will they be able to penetrate the OSP's defense net? We will see. In turn, a bunch of size 2 missiles fired here, going after the CL here, desperately trying to pop its defenses. We see a chaff decoy being launched here. Let's see if it has enough stuff. Yep, it's still got plenty of 20 mil ammo. Not the most effective against size 2s, but able to deploy when needed. See an active decoy being launched here, most likely going to seduce these squalls. They need to quickly cycle off their radars and just dodge, 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 dodge. Dodulous drift command. See a chaff cell here. Yep, active decoys. Unfortunately, they are out of decoys, but the last one has been launched out here. It should be enough. Yep. 2 active decoys, whole bunch of size 2 missiles going after the chaff and the decoys, just not sure what they should be going after. Ooh, we're seeing some size 2 hybrid volleys. Wham, wham, wham. Devastating damage being inflicted here. Yes, the fragile sun drive once again proving that it is knocked out by anything looking at it. You see the front of the ship just getting completely booped on the snoot here. CIC is unfortunately out along with the magazine, so no return fire available as this ship is currently dead in the water, taking fire from the 250. Taking fire from the 250 CL here. Ooh, the Ionic Oxen apparently punching out here. Did not see this. It would seem that they have surrendered at some point. I missed that in chat. Ah, yes. So I believe that the OSP team has decided they are going to throw in the towel, not wanting to play this one out, considering themselves just at too much of a disadvantage. Still, we're seeing Pickles here giving the heroic all left here. Although we see some size 2 missiles flying in now, launched from the Axford. Probably going to get a good broadside hit. Might be enough to knock out some of these components, or at least gray out some more of the systems. See some 450 fire flying in now. One good hit will kill off that CIC, so it is a gamble here. Yes, unfortunately, them deciding that this will not be the game to win. So, game 1 goes to the ANS side. A good play showing off here, the power of a cap fleet, and also how you can correct... Well, we saw there a a ANS kind of like wide cap fleet maneuver where they brought a lot of CLs and torpedo corvettes, controlling the map fairly well, and a missile ship to kind of whack any shuttles that might be engaging them. That said, the OSP brought in a whole bunch of Acellos and went for a heroic push that unfortunately did not work out for them. Still, you can see many game go off in various different directions after that. Give them a little bit of advice here, as I have made the same mistake that they did, bringing the small drive when I meant to bring the big one. They weigh basically the same, they cost basically the same, but getting the big drive in the backside of your Acello is very good. So much text. Ah, yes, the mighty wall of text that is Nebulous Fleet Command. How go game? We're just spectating, so we were watching a match on Killboard. First game goes to the ANS side here instead of the OSP. OSP gave a heroic charge, and we're trying, but unfortunately, the wrong type of toys brought to counter the ANS's mighty hybrid salvos and torpedo defense. Just giving a little helpful advice to some people, as I've made some of the same fleet building mistakes that they have. So let us ready up again and see what there is to see. I might actually jump in for a match here. So seeing them talking about some of the anti-hybrid. So we saw a big old hybrid salvo. You don't see this build very often, as most missile players have gravitated towards the group of frigates being very good missile platforms. That said, you can get some other fun toys on the CL. The destroyer is also a good platform for missiles, as it is the smallest ANS hull that you can bring things like intel and strike planning centers on. So that said, though, I think that we are going to take a quick break here in between matches so we don't get ads in between. So I'm going to take a 3-minute break here, and then we'll be back for more Nebulous Fleet Command. So don't go anywhere, chat, or if you do, be back in 3 minutes, as I certainly will be. Yeah. Alrighty, Nebulous fans, we are back. We've hopped into area official number 6. We found a match on Tumbleweed that we are also going to be casting here, seeing two teams squaring off against each other. So you should be ready up any second now. Tell the teams you're ready it up. Seeing them go about their business. Tumbleweed, a very short-range, brawl-heavy map. You'll see a lot of beams, torpedoes, rockets, and other close-range goodness on this map. It is basically the dream for any beam enthusiast, being the beam destroyers or the beam... what are they? The beam battleships you'll most commonly see. That said, beams on the Axford Heavy Cruiser is something that is oftentimes forgotten about, it seems. People will generally see gun heavy cruisers run, or some occasional spicy missile boats. But the beam is nothing to frown at, as beam is very spicy and very green. So, don't get lasered, because if you get within 5 to 6 kilometers of them, you will definitely feel it in the morning. And so we're going to hop into the match here. So Tumbleweed is, like the name would imply, basically a giant tumbleweed in space. It's a bit difficult to navigate on sometimes, given the tactical view will occasionally put you inside of a rock, but in terms of some of the close angles you can play on it, I have had many a fun match on it, although I will also say that some of them are a little bit difficult, as, like I said, you're looking at a map that has a interesting internal layout that's occasionally hard for your camera to navigate. So we'll finish up the nameplates here and then get into the match, seeing where the teams will deploy into. Should see some more spicy close-range gameplay like we saw last game, with a bunch of torpedo play and other things. At least that's what I'm betting on. That said, you can also come completely wild and play the outside of Tumbleweed, where you've got some long sight lines to play very well with guns and rails and whatnot. Just wait and see what we get into this magical tin can that is Nebulous. Yeah. Alright, so, like I said, it looks like a big old tumbleweed in space. You can see some of the snow layered on top of it. So, in the in the blue trunks, we are seeing the ANS deploy. In the orange, we got the OSP. Oh. ANS deploying this side of the map, naturally gravitating towards B. OSP likewise deploying on their side, gravitating towards the C point. There's 3 contested middle points, the D, the E, and the A points. So this gives you essentially 3 lanes of advance that you can find yourselves moving into and contesting. You'll oftentimes see people kind of favor deploying to the top side of the map, in the A point largely going into kind of a one-laner contesting mode. But that's not to say that you cannot play this map inverted, which turns the thing completely on its head and brings many an interesting angle you can push that people oftentimes forget about. I think that not enough people know about inverting the map and then playing it upside down like that, because you're just kind of naturally incentivized towards playing the top of a map because your camera is naturally kind of looking downwards like this. It's just a thing you see in real-time strategy games. If you know how to correctly flip your map and play the underside, you can be infuriating, as you will come from many an unexpected angle, and there's a lot of routes that people just do not think about because they don't look at the game this way. So, we just finished our silly flippage action. We are seeing the OSP team deploying in their clusters, ANS bringing in quite a few ships here by the looks of it. So, we'll see once the game has started what they have brought to bear. 10 seconds left as they finalize their deployment positions. Not seeing the Biff fleet deploying, much to my surprise. Where are they? Oh, there they are. They're on the Big Titty Goth GF, yes, and the Sugandis. So, you see some of the names of all time in Nebulous Fleet Command. That said, we are seeing, yes, a mighty beam battleship here in the green. GDI paint scheme. So, any Command & Conquer fans, here is ya boy. Or girl. I think technically ships are named after women. I don't know entirely why that is. I guess it was just something they decided to do. And it's like, hey, you know what? Let's go with it. See a 250 turret on here. So we'll start off with this for GDS. We have the Whale here, a big old beam battleship. 250 gun to shoot down anything at a distance, and then just looking to close into that 5 kilometer or less distance and bring 3 beam turrets to bear. Nasty, nasty package that. It's got a little escort ship going along with it, just a bit of extra point defense supplied, along with a bullseye target lock radar and a little 250 gun to swat at the occasional shuttle. So, nice little self-contained package. Oop, we are unfortunately losing a player here. Oh, that's not great. Let's see, did somebody inherit their fleets? Who was that? So, on Team 1, Ruthless. Unfortunately. So Ruthless bringing in the mighty 3x3 Corvette swarm here. So, I believe that somebody inherited them. We'll see how that goes. If they have to do a reconnection. Unfortunately, you cannot reconnect to a game in progress, and occasionally Neb will disconnect you. Either your internet goes out or you get a weird crash, but hey, that's just video games for you. It happens sometimes, so we'll see if the ANS team wants to play it out. That said, we can just go through the list here. So you're seeing the formation of ships here, a 3x3 grouping. So you would see these typically... Nope, these are just guns. Okay, so, yep, a big old gun swarm here. So the double-barreled 120 guns, these are devastating when brought against a lot of ships because every time you inflict a instance of damage, there's a chance to critical hit. So you can essentially just pepper somebody to death and crit at their reactors, drives, and whatnot, starting a whole bunch of fires and things. So looks like you got 10 of them. I see that there's it's a 3x3 making 9 ships. I'm not sure where the 10th went to. Nope, I miscounted. Never mind, it's just a 9x... I was trying to say 9x9 grid. Is a 3x3 grid of corvettes that they will eventually bring into formation and play. So we will see how that goes. Anyways, for Serotonin here, we're seeing a couple of corvettes as well. Ooh, that is interesting. What do we have here? A Masquerade Deception module. So this is fooling the enemy into thinking this is an entirely different type of ship. It's got a torpedo complement with it. Looks like they got a pair of them. So these are most likely making themselves look as something larger than what they currently are. Deception is essential part of warfare. So a lot of tricks that you can pull here with the Deception Golf Ball module. This one just featuring a small gun and some defender point defense. So see the Pipkin Pippa logo on here. Very funny. Looks like Satoran also brought 250 package on a CL. Pretty common to see, along with another 250 package. Bullseye radar going on top there. Personally, I like putting the bullseye on the nose and the gun on top as it gets you a little bit better swivel mounts and stuff. But I will not criticize a player too much for bringing all the stuff in the arrangement that they like. Finally, rounding out the ANS team, we have, looks like a VLS-2 package on that and VLS-2 package on this. So a little bit of kind of offside missile play, these being 2 different holes so that they can quickly position them around the map for quick missile strikes. You're seeing a lot of corvettes being brought in this game, actually. So this just a little naked A-capper going in to try and get the point, along with a proper torpedo corvette here, double defender, and the missiles as you would expect. See if there's anything else particularly special here. Nope, just looks like a mixed arrangement of ships kind of around the map playing that cap fleet, and we already covered that. Anyways, let's go and cover the OSP side as the game is starting to get underway. B point going to the ANS, C point to the OSP as you would expect, them moving up around the map. Let's take a look. What did Biftron bring? So we see a 450 broadside bulker here. Good old Biff logo on the side there, looking at that little smug expression. That's a man who knows what's up, lighting that cigar. So he's got a bunch of container launchers on the back there. We aren't certain exactly what the payload is, but I think I can find out. Let's see. Decoys and mines, very important. Mines for denying the back cap, and decoys for making the enemy think that there is more ships than there is. Seeing a pair of them moving up into the middle section of the map here to provide 450 coverage towards the D point. We've got a little shuttle here going forward heroically to cap that point. 2 little T-20 guns making it quite effective against small targets such as these corvettes. And lastly, we are seeing, completing the gun group here, we have a Bloodhound early warning radar tug. So this is, I believe, 335 points. It's the cheapest you can get a double package like this. It takes a lot of plant control centers, though, to run. Triple plant control meaning you have no room for a repair team. That means that any damage inflicted on this is permanent, so you have to be careful setting this thing to flank because it will not get better. Here we see the first 450 barrage. Ooh, actually, never mind. That's not 450 at all. What do we have here? Oh, I did not see this. Little T-20 guns loaded with grape shot. Very good against the smaller targets, bringing most of these ships here to bear. So we're seeing some size 1s here. Boop, boop, boop. Ooh, that will be a dead shuttle here. Size 1s very effective against the very cheap package of the basic CIC, not holding up to that. That said, the T-20's grape shot is very effective against small targets here, so we'll likely see a couple corvettes traded out for this shuttle as they are just peppering them at this range, trying to stay mobile and keep this D point cap going. Over here on the E point, let's take a look. We have Mosaman bringing in, ooh, what do we have here? A MLS-2 bulk freighter, so a very spicy, I believe it's 64 missile launch package. Each of these missile launchers able to launch 4 missiles before having to reload, and with 8 of them in total, yes. That's 8 times 4, which is math. That's actually 32, I believe. So my mistake on that. A lot of restores being brought to this. We're seeing the DC large lockers along with the large DC storage. Tons of restores. You can always refit this thing. Probably going to see a huge missile dump at some point in the game, direct fired, as this thing is heroically charging forth. Lastly, rounding out the OSP team as we finish going over the builds here, we have a 250 Acello, good on this map for the close-range brawling, seeing some torpedo tubes loaded on the sides of it for that close-range punch. This thing looking to get up in your face, a little bit of radar jamming on top to cover its approach. Very good. You're seeing also the Dazzler here to counter the electro-optical seeker head types. Lastly, we have Goldfishy's other ship here. A Flipper 450 Bulker, so able to fire one side and then flip over, firing the other side, giving that double casemate action, doubling the rate of fire, although it does require a little bit of micro. Seeing some missile strikes come in here now. Size 2 hybrid missiles are out for blood, going after, I believe it is this, yes, ooh, we're seeing them instead seduce off after these tugs. Most likely shut down radar here. These are ARAD Seekers, if I had to guess. Seeing a couple hits, ooh, maybe just barely shot down in time. Close defense there. Seeing, lastly, we have Finguy's fleet coming in with a couple of monitors here. This one featuring the plasma turrets on the top and bottom, front-loaded plasma damage, able to strip out the armor with 8 shots in total between these two. And then the double-barreled 250 here, able to bring in some withering front-facing fire. Seeing the pinpoint and jamming package equipped on this tug, a little electronic support, along with the 250 nose guns and Grazer laser turrets here, shooting down hybrids and such. So, nice little mixed collection of smaller ships here, rounding out the fleet. We see 2 groupings of them. This gives you a nice little separation so you can easily flank a target from both sides. Never underestimate the effect of flanking, as ANS does rely heavily on bow tanking for survivability on their bigger ships. Yeah, 250 and Plasma. So Plasma is very good at stripping away the ANS's armor. We will most likely see Plasma brought to bear against this Beam Destroyer. Sorry. I was thinking Star Destroyer for some reason, and ended up with the... You know how that goes. Anyways, big old battleship here, heavily armored. I believe it's got 58 centimeters of armor, and with the angling, that is very, very hard to pen. Even 450mm AP shells can end up bouncing off of some of these plates in the front if they have the right angle. So, that said, when the Plasma strikes it, it will strip off that armor, rendering the battleship's mighty defenses brought low. So, we're going to see now some more combat taking place. So, the CLs here for Pipkin Pippa fleet, moving upwards, trying to get some flanking shots on whatever they can look at. Seeing, the container liner decoys... the container decoys now coming out here. They are convinced that this is, in fact, a bulk freighter. Their intel centers have given them bad intel as they are firing off shots into it, wondering, what the hell is this thing? Why are our shots not hitting? In a second, they should clue in, and yes, there it goes. Pop goes the weasel, or is it easel? Either way, pippity pop it goes, and that is a dead decoy. Still, giving you information, knowing where the enemy ships is very important, because those decoys only cost 6 points out of your 3,000. They are worth their weight in gold. I cannot recommend them enough, especially when you have the backside of your ship available to mount these little 2 slots. So you can bring like 8 of them or so across your ships. Now seeing the 450s coming onto the target here, or coming to bear rather. Seeing the 250s trying to line up, both ships squaring off against each other. The ANS trying to bring their bow tanking onto target using the drives here. Yep, we're seeing the Raider combo with a big reactor. So Raider drive gives you a lot of acceleration, although it does not give you very good flank stats, as it increases your chance of getting flank damage. It's up from, I believe, 5% to 7.5% per second. Don't quote me on that, it might be per tick, but either way, you have to be careful burning the flank speed, but you are very maneuverable, giving you a lot of linear acceleration, so you're able to quickly dodge and jank and juke yourself around. So, gunfight going down there. Let's take a little cursory look around the map as we see currently the ANS in the lead with 3 ships. With 3 caps to the 2. So, a couple missile strikes coming in here. Mild damage inflicted across the ship, most likely just from the 250 barrage. Although we do see some pretty good hits here. So, maybe those hybrids just found a bad angle and blew out the side. But we're seeing a big old size 2 volley here, going swing and a miss by the looks of it, striking nothing on their way by. A bunch of the little ships here coming in for a big old brawl. We should most likely see some torpedoes in a second here as the small guns on the Biff fleet trying to shoot at these little annoying pests. Yep, torps are out in the water. This is going to be a big problem for the Biff fleet if they do not have defenders or a good counter to this. Let's see, they are popping all the chaff and flares they possibly can. I believe these are command guided and they should not care. Yep, flying directly onto target. Grazer is trying to fire, not providing enough defense. We're going to see a big old torp hit going down against the OSP. Bam, bam, front side of the ship taking devastating damage as we watch more and more torpedoes. Ooh, look at that nasty blow through. The spine is broken as just all the damage bleeds over into the various systems. This bulk freighter, it can get itself back into the game. It has a number of restores it can use, but that is heavy, heavy damage. Here we're seeing all the systems prioritized for repairs, trying to extinguish those fires before they can spread across the hull. That bulk freighter is going to be down and out for the next 5 minutes or so as the repair teams have to quickly rotate and get onto target. Ooh, seeing some more torpedoes and other missiles flying into the Biff fleet here. Heavy damage inflicted against the OSP to start with. Still, though, we are seeing it is coming at a cost as one of the Pipkin Pippa fleet is unfortunately brought low by these small guns here. So this thing just completely knocked out. That might have actually been a counter missile shot, so might have missed that one. So let's take a little look around the map. We're seeing some size 2 missiles coming in here. Let's see how good the point defense is on this fleet. A couple flak shots being fired off. A couple of defenders trying to skew things. Ooh, missile hits inflicted here. Yes, so those guns are unfortunately out. Only 1 restore has to be put into the CIC. This thing has been disarmed. Those Mark 62 cannons not being able to be brought to bear. Plasma going into a couple of these. Plasma largely overkill against a ship of this caliber, as Plasma is meant to strip off armor. But if you have a weapon, why not use it? You can see the Grape Shot coming in here. Grape Shot very effective against corvettes as they are very vulnerable to getting their crews killed. You see their damage control teams here being very vulnerable. 1 to 2 damage control teams only. So that Grape Shot punching handily through their meager 5 centimeters of armor doing devastating critical hit damage. You're seeing fires being started all across the ship as they will quickly be lit up and burned down. 250s coming in to finish off a bunch of these ships. That said, it is swarm on swarm combat, as we're going to see just quickly hopping across the map. We see the CLs still scoring off against the big fleet. No mercy, no respite, as 250 shots flying into these bulk freighters here, trying to keep them down and out for the count. It is looking not great, as we are seeing only 2 restores left in this thing. They need to try and bring systems online. Ooh, the CIC is getting knocked out. Unfortunately, the big titty goth GF is brought low by 250s. A devastating torpedo volley, bringing it to its knees and just being finished off now by the Pipkin Pippa fleet. So, that said, we are seeing some return volleys being sent out here, a bunch of size 2 missiles. I'm not sure if those were going after the corvettes and missed, or if they have a different target in mind. These are cruise path by the looks of it. Oh yes, they are going after some of the other ships here. The Seekers have locked on, and they are looking to get some good hits on the Mighty Rinse here. Seeing a couple of RPF rounds and defenders trying to shoot down this incoming volley, but no, it has its mind set on the aft section of this ship. Wham, 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 wham! Unfortunately, the drive section going out here, cannons being knocked out. That said, there's still a reinforced locker, so they can bring their Whiplash drive back online and still stay in this fight. Surprising to see that ship survive as well as it did. That was a lot of size 2 missile to be taken up the backside. Let's take a look back on the swarmulous combat. We're seeing some of the bulk freighters here trying to fire their guns. Bit of swarm on swarm combat kicking off here as we see multiple of these ships being kind of knocked out. So yes, completely redded out, reactors going off, so that thing will most likely cook in a few seconds. Let's take a look. Where did that beam ship go? Ah, here we are. So the beam battleship burning at best speed, trying to come around this corner and get a line onto the bulk freighter. Here we see the front turret bearing, the aft one coming as well. This will most likely present a broadside, giving you 3 beams on target. But the ANS is prepared for this, or so they think. There's 450s already lining up and ready to aim. We will most likely see the ship flip over and fire its other side here. Currently, they are getting beamed, though. Ooh, double devastating beams into the backside of this ship, going right into that big long-haul drive. So it will not be surprising to see that thing go down if those beams were battle shorted. Looks like they just went for the short cycle, going for the cannon fire and regular beams. You can battle short your beams, keep them firing when you have a good hit on target, but I'm assuming they did not have visual at that range, so they didn't know to just keep on cooking, because they were hitting that thing right in the backside. That said, we see them pulling back now, rearming. Ooh, there's the beam cycling again, cooking the front side of this ship now. You can see all that beam damage being cooked across. Unfortunately, one of the beam gunners looks like he had a little too much of his grog, and unfortunately aiming a bit wide there. Still, good damage being inflicted across this. One of the CICs is brought down to the red, meaning it is down and out for the count. Actually, that is the only CIC on board this thing, so it is currently not under command, which is very bad, as it will come to a halt here and have to have that repaired, so it is under command once again. Ooh, there is the reactor cook-off we were talking about. So this is the devastation of Grape Shot, as you can inflict a whole bunch of crits, including the super criticals on the reactors and drives. Seeing those now cook off into space. Beams, 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 as once again, no mercy is being shown here by the GDI fleet. Coming around the corner and zapping away. That said, the Acela has something to say about it. It's got torpedoes. Let's see if they launch or not. It's bringing its 250 guns to bear. 250's not very effective against a ship of this caliber, though. The armor just a little too thick. That beam being fired now onto the Acela as it is getting cooked here. We see the little pancake stack. Unfortunately, large DC locker is out along with the reinforced and the berthing. No, not the berthing. We need to sleep there. So, big old Beamulous being displayed here. Tumbleweed, a very good beam map as they are cooking away at their enemy. That's it. Now the plasma has found its mark, cooking away at the nose of this ship. We'll see if it can get some other good hits here. Yeah, you can see those scorch marks. That's plasma damage. That means that there is no armor left there. So even the smallest guns in the game, the little 100 calibers, can now pose a threat to this battleship, as that plasma is, at this range, very, very dangerous. So we're seeing the beams firing, the bow and or the fore and belly beams being brought to bear. The aft beam, I would not be surprised if they turn and burn it onto the fleet over here in order to ward them off, but the battleship currently just trying to present its bow, withering any incoming fire possible. Seeing some torpedoes flying off into I don't even know where there. Although, another good hit here. So, still, this ship is able to get itself back under control shortly. The bulk magazine, unfortunately, taking a lot of hit. That is, holy crap, that is a lot of 20 mil ammo. That might be a little too much 20 mil ammo. Don't get me wrong, you do want some 20 mil ammo, but that's a little excessive. So, still, we're seeing the beams showing just what they can do on a Tumbleweed, as, unfortunately, Goldfishy's fleet here getting knocked out heavily. Let's take a look over here. Biff's fleet trying to come to bear against... I'm not actually sure what it's aiming at up here, but still, they're moving down. Look like they're heading towards the A point. A bunch of ships being cleaned up on the periphery. Here we see the missile ship deploying the last of its missiles, I believe. Unless it has... No, actually, it's still got plenty. We got 94 Waka Wakas left in the tank. All right, Fozzie Bear, what do you got for me? See them being sent off somewhere. Looks like they're going for the flying shot onto the BPD culture here. Let's see if we get a missile hit or not. Defenders and Chaff has popped. Is it enough in time? Let's find out. Chaff a little too late going into the rocks here. No, that is going to be one big old hit to the drive. A couple of them swinging and missing by. Let's see if these secondary volleys follow up and hit or not. No. Most likely ARAD Seeker there, given that it just kind of whizzed right by. Active Seeker would instead decide, hey, this is a big target, or instead you see it go after the Chaff Cloud. So, unfortunately, the Whiplash Drive damaged, but not killed. So we will see a damage control team hop over there and get this thing fixed and back under control. That said, it has already expended its 50cc estrogen torpedoes. I love the names in this game sometimes. You can customize the names of your ships and your missiles and such. They ask you not to make them like a little too risque, but sometimes you see some funny things like that. So, grape shot being fired against the Corvette swarm here as they are being brought down. You see a bunch of the Corvettes here being knocked out for the Beer Ruthless fleet. That said, this was unfortunately a disconnect at the start of the game, so this has been inherited by the ANS team. That said, currently the game is going in ANS favor, 468 points to 292. More beams being brought out here. Ooh, that is nasty. So we see a lot of beam damage being inflicted here. There is nothing left on board this ship. It has had to be abandoned as we just watch it get royally cooked off here. That said, there's still hope that we are able to bring this bulk freighter back online. CIC is desperately trying to be fixed. Large locker has been exhausted. There is no restores left. Any knockout is permanent here as little shots are being inflicted now by the Pipkin Pippa fleet. Those 250s being very devastating against a OSP liner when it is low like this. We'll see if it is able to fire any of its return volleys. I think it is no, constantly being brought out of action. And now the beam battleship, the aft beam, is able to cook onto target right down the nose. Another reactor cook-off goes here as we watch more and more ships just popping off here. It is just non-stop detonations on this side of the map as we see both the light ships, the little corvettes, and the tugboats just detonating themselves from critical hits. This is the power of rapid-fire weaponry. You can get those crits and knock out your enemy system. And if they do not scram their reactors in time, it is going to be a devastating explosion for anyone within 2 kilometers. Still, ANS currently holding the lead, but OSP has some teeth in them. We're seeing some more missiles being fired out now as the ships come back online. Let's see what they got for them. Yep. Okay, bam, bam, bam. Oop, couple good hits here. Wham, nastiness. And that is a dead ship, I believe. Yes, the Whiplash Drive knocked out in the Micro Reactor 2. Without power, there is nothing for the ship to do, so the team is forced to, unfortunately, abandon it as we see the hull bleeding and smoking there. So that is another knockout. The Size 2 liner, although it has taken some hits across the game, we're just seeing the power of the number of stores crammed into this thing. The large DC storage getting exhausted first, and then the large lockers. So this thing can fix itself surprisingly well. That said, its radar is offline, so it is firing blindly, relying on its team for tracks right now. I wonder if they know this or not, because they have not actually issued the repair order on that. Might be something to pick up in a few moments. That said, Goldfishies surrendered. Unfortunately, their fleet was beamed heavily here, so while it was a good showing, sometimes you do just get beamed on tumbleweed. I believe that they fired off their torps at the very least, I think, right? It doesn't actually tell me now because the ships have been abandoned, unfortunate. That said, even when you are facing against beam ships like this, beam ships must respect the torpedo threat that the OSP can bring. Last beam's going in here onto a dead ship. They should finish firing shortly, or they're beaming life pods, which is a meme in and of itself. ANS currently taking control of the E point, but there's still some teeth left as the OSP splits up and goes for the cap. Here we see one of Biff's ships, the mighty ship Hero. It's kind of scouting package, the early morning radar Bloodhound tug. 355 points for a very good ship. It is capturing the A point, bringing the OSP back into this game as initiative will fall to the ANS to take up a new point. We're also seeing a team guard to the D point. I don't believe that they know that this ship is still alive. It is playing possum, cleverly hiding in a snowbank there. I will not say that I've ever hidden in a snowbank in my life and played possum to ignore some people and responsibilities, but let's just say that I think they have a good plan. They can unfortunately not move, but looks to end their torpedo launcher is out. That said, they are still in the game, and I believe with a working reactor and radar, correct? Let's see, missile programming. Oh, that's interesting. Double missile programming bus here for big missile volleys. Huh. I guess that's a good way to get a size 3 strike out, so you can fire 3 torpedoes at once instead of having to wait for 1 or 2 to program. Cool to see. See, so a bunch of size 2 missiles coming out here. The Waka Wakas, unfortunately going into the rock. Rock proving to be once again the best PD. That said, there is no rock to save this one. The cook died here. Unfortunately, trying to shoot this down with his defender. Will it hit it in time? Oh, it's going to be close. That is a missile hit, and that is another missile hit, and that is a dead ship. Wham, wham, wham. One more for good measure as everything is knocked out inside of the ship. See the frontline radar still technically active, although CIC, cannons, whiplash drive, and reactor, unfortunately, all biting it. The There's the reinforced DC locker does not have a restore left, so that ship is out of the fight. A lot of cleanup being done here against the capped fleet of the ANS, so OSP trying to win this on a capside victory. They do not have the tools currently to defeat a fully armed beam battleship, but there's a good chance that they will not have to. Here we see a bunch of plasma stripping off the armor, allowing those small guns to do devastating damage. But we're also seeing the ship rolling and bringing its beam turrets to bear. You can see them just barely masked or otherwise out of range here as they're trying to get an angle on these ships. It will not be long now before, yes, we see the mighty green slicing beam cooking away at the front of the ship. The C-56 cannon getting the worst of it, being the big target in the front of the ship. That said, it is still in the fight. While it is losing its front side guns, those plasma turrets are untouched, still spewing forth the armor-stripping power against the mighty GI fleet. Yes, this thing is getting peeled completely here. You see basically no armor left on the left side. Any 100mm that goes into the side of this thing is going to find some damage. That said, will it find damage in time to save the fleet here as multiple beams being brought onto target? They do not like this monitor. Yes, we see the top side of it royally cooked off. The CIC unfortunately knocked out, so the ship is not able to continue its fire order. It's most likely going to eat a third beam here any second as we watch the 65 cannon cycle. The beam turret is currently idle. I won't be surprised if they issue the aft beam turret to fire as well. Looks like it's just kind of sitting idle, waiting for any other threat to manifest itself. Could also just be them forgetting to reissue the orders, as quite a lot happens in Nebulous, and you can't have perfect micro all the time. Plus, you've honestly got 2 beams on target. Do you really need a third? Seeing the mighty beam gunners there once again being drunk. It's an immobilized ship, and they somehow still miss, hitting the little coning tower here used for observations and whatnot. The CIC coming back online as they have to try and repair the antenna. A clever snipe off there, preventing them from being able to communicate with their fleet and get any targeting locks. So you see them now attempting to jam their target. This is one of the benefits of the tugboats. They have a very, very small radar profile, so when you equip them with jammers, particularly 2 bellbirds like this, the new mount on the front here providing no target masking that previously occurred because of the little observation tower there, they are very good at jamming out the enemy fleet and making it so that they are hard to see. They do have increased signature, but that is a very, very small signature size still, even with double jammers. Trying to see that through the double jamming cloud, most likely not going to work as the OSP is going to try and beat a hasty retreat from the incoming salvos here of beams. Seeing a little bit of gunfire too from the escorting frigate. Unfortunately, the ship here not going to survive this by the looks of it. No, getting cooked out here completely. There's just nothing left besides the Citadel magazine, which is nigh impossible to kill. So, that said, ANS once again taking the lead with a 3 cap to the OSP's 2 cap. We're going to see a couple of their fleet moving around here now. I'm not surprised that they are turning and burning towards the backside of the map here. Probably going to go for that C point and capture that back and get themselves into the game. ANS is in a fairly significant point lead here, being about 220 or so points above the OSP. So if the OSP wants to win this, they're going to have to come back and get themselves a quadruple cap. Ooh, that is a reactor cook-off, just obscuring the entire screen here as everything turns white and blue and a healthy taste of radiation fuzz. Looks like the 250 guns here on Pipkin Pippa fleet. They survived by staying just out of the range of that reactor cook-off, as reactor cook-offs will strip a ship of all of its armor, much like Plasma does. So we're seeing them just cleaning up the rest of the map here. The A point, unfortunately, going into the hands of the ANS here shortly, as they're just making sure everything around here is dead. So, Biftron fleet, unfortunately knocked out here by various ships. So, it is down to just 2 fleets left for the OSP side. That said, heavy losses have been inflicted across the ANS as well. One of their cap fleets just completely gone out of the picture here, and many of the other ones missing all of their ammo, having expended their various missiles. So, there is a healthy beam battleship that is nigh uncontestable by what the OSP currently has left. But don't write them off yet, as there is still a missile ship here with, how many left? 6 missiles. So that is enough to clean up a few missile ships. It does only take 1 good missile strike to knock out a corvette if you get a lucky hit. So you have to be careful. They're sneaking around the backside trying to find the B cap here. We're seeing the gravity here. What does it have? Surprise missile volley. It still has torpedoes. We might see the 50cc estrogen cell fire against the armed bread here in a second. Let's watch and wait and see if they pick them up on radar or not. Gonna be a big old nasty surprise. That said, there is a lot of restorers still left in this ship. You can see 5 restorers remaining, so even if they get a good torpedo strike, there's a good chance that they can bring some of their systems back online, not needing the missile launchers in a minute once they've finally expended their payload. So, now when we see them peeking around the rock, it's going to be who can issue their missile order first and key up their launch codes. Let's see it. So, does this ship have radar? Yes, it does. So we're going to probably see 1 or 2 torpedoes fired off immediately. What kind of defense does this have? Looks like they have, I believe those are Bastion turrets? Yes, mostly Bastion, although they do have a Pavis turret or 2, but unfortunately one of them is knocked out. Let's see what happens here in a second. We should see some torpedo commanding. Come on, you see each other. Fire for effect. Let me see those missiles. Come on, send it. Seeing some 4-point lead here for the ANS. Yep, there's the Torp out. Let's see if the CCs go. It's burning in, and a bare hit there. We're seeing a couple of systems being knocked out. Braking thrusters and mount gyros most likely cooking off. The Huntress still actually out for this ship. Ooh, they don't realize their radar is down. That's a big hit there. We just saw a whole bunch of systems get grayed out. Double bulk magazines, unfortunately, eating it. The ship has been disarmed, declawed, detoothed, name whatever you want. Another devastating hit coming here. Wham! Now, you cannot actually knock out liners, or at least the reinforced command. Yes, the Citadel here, unfortunately, not able to be knocked out by a missile strike. But a little push from a 250 or 450 will probably take this thing out. So, it's combat killed now for the moment, as the OSP is not able to get the B point here. The ANS safeguarding it well with their torpedo corvettes. Torp corvettes are a tool that I think more ANS players need to bring. They are devastating against what the OSP has right now. See now the plasma firing into this now. OSP diving towards the E point. Now, they're going to have to really turn this around soon, because that is a huge point lead for the ANS team. They're up by about 300 points now. Still, we're seeing beam turrets coming around now, looking to get some cooking action done on the fleet here. Let's see what they got. So they're firing off their small guns, and not much armor again left on the ANS's ship. So any of these little high explosive rounds that get into the side of the ship will detonate, and we're starting to see them inflicting damage. Plant control centers and whatnot. Beams require a lot of power, so knocking out a plant control is a good way to take at least one of those beams off. Also, there's a chance that they will inflict a reactor critical event, which will mean that they will either have to scram or desperately try and repair that. Let's see. Pew, 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 pew goes the plasma. More and more of this getting cooked off. Plasma rounds do actually do some damage, although their primary purpose is armor stripping. Still, we are seeing damage being inflicted across here. The Stonewall flak going offline. Mount gyros being knocked out. Very notorious for getting knocked out by anything stiffer than a breeze. Track correlators too, and radar panels. Very important thing about the battleship. It has 4 radar panels per side. If you can pepper a battleship, you might not kill the internals, but you can blind it effectively, knocking out its radar panels, rendering it only able to shoot at things within 2.5 kilometers, because that's visual range. Kill off the escorts too, providing any locks, and you can blind the battleship, basically turning it into a mighty beast swinging in the dark, blindfolded. Seeing the OSP trying to use their mobility advantage here to keep the ship at range. That said, this thing is cruising at 18 versus the fleet here cruising at 15. They need to set their flank and start retreating, because if they get in beaming range here, which we see, yes, out of range just barely, we're going to see some long green lasers creeping across the battlefield here to cook off some of these ships. Return fire being only 250 at this time. You're seeing some other tugs moving about the map. So, ANS, again, 100 points to win as they are creeping towards that 1,000 mark. OSP needs to do something now if they want to stay in this game and get it, although I don't think they have it, as we're seeing still a combat-killed ship here. The reactors and Sundrive. Wow, a Sundrive still actually in the game at this point. Sundrives have only like 100 hit points. We saw last game how quick they were to be taken out. So the Citadel CIC is back online. The Sundrive is 2, so we might see them get they'll get a 2 cap here, rendering this 4 cap only a 3 cap. That said, I don't think that the OSP will be able to get 2 points in time. Here we see the ANS just kind of creeping out and dominating the map. The only real combat effective fleet left here is desperately running from this battleship. I'm giving OSP probably like 10% odds of this. I do say never, but they are going to have to act very fast, and I don't think they will be able to get onto points in time. Still, the battleship here, plant control centers going down, so are the reactors. Just a lot of systems getting knocked out now. The magazine is out. All of the armor and defenses of the battleship being stripped off as it presents a huge target for that incoming 215 fire and 100 mils. So, anyone who says the battleships are nigh unkillable, they have not had one peeled by a good plasma salvo like we see this game. So, it is alive and kicking, although those beam turrets will not have enough power to fire. That said, I believe that the battleship has more than paid its worth, knocking out the fleet of Goldfishy here. The CIC of the, CIC of the bulk freighter here went down from a good beam salvo and then follow-up missile strike. And then the Ocello here, yeah, I believe it just ate a bunch of beams and then cooked itself off. Yes, Sundrive. Again, kids, Sundrives are fun. They make you go fast, but be safe. Take a Whiplash. Big Whiplash drive will keep your big ships alive in the fight a lot longer than your Sundrives. Save Sundrives for shuttles and tugs when you want them to just YOLO onto a point, because they are made of wet tissue paper. So, OSP about to come in for a clutch win here. Let's see, can they spitefully take the B point back in the last seconds? There'll be one more tick here, and they might make it a 2-tick. Oh, unfortunately, no, the ANS gets it there. So, good showing from the OSP team, bringing a lot of their ships to bear against a mighty target such as the Beam Destroyer. I keep saying that, Beam Destroyer. It is a beam battleship. I keep thinking Star Destroyer for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe I've watched too much Star Wars content recently, but that'll be a win for the ANS. GG, well played to all. Thank you, everyone participating. So, See, Biff's fleet unfortunately took a big old torpedo strike there. Torpedoes, once again, proving to be very devastating. Close-range weapons in this map being very effective. The OSP can bring torpedoes of their own, too, though. We saw instead a size 2 missile liner, which did almost 26,000 damage. That is a good chunk of damage. Interesting. It says 36% of its combat load expended, although it looks like they expended pretty much everything. I wonder if that means that they're talking about point defense ammo. Most likely. Yeah, they're probably talking about the point defense ammo in that case, just showing the total ammo on board the ship. So, wow, that is a lot of flak. That's a lot of flak ammo for 2 Bastion turrets. Yeah, the Torp Sprinters we saw there. So even though ANS did have a disconnect at the start of the game, which unfortunately does happen, it was still a good showing, and they were able to micro their ships relatively effectively as everyone inherited something from that fleet. So good showing there. We're going to hop back into the main menu and see if there's another match up or not. We can hop into, ooh, a 3K match here on Nix's Eye. Okay, we're going to hop into this thing. 10 out of 12. So we're going to go ahead and sit in the spectator slot for this one. I'm just going to ready us up real quick, and then, ooh, all right. Tell you what, we're going to take a 3-minute break here. So by the time that everyone deploys, we should be done our little ad thing. This is done so that people don't get pre-rolls or intermission ads, because nobody likes those. So we'll be back in 3 minutes starting right now. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back for more OSP versus ANS action. Yeah. Alrighty, folks, audio's back on. We are just in time to get the game going here as we're getting a 5v5 on Nix's Eye. 10 players of goodness, 1,500 point limit. So we are going to see a little bit longer game here instead of the 4v4s we have experienced tonight. So 5v5s on Nix's Eye are a lot of fun. I said for a long time that Nix's Eye needed to be made into a 5v5 map, and they finally went ahead and with one of the more recent patches, I think within the past couple months, they turned it into a 5v5 map, and wow, has it improved the gameplay by a lot. We're going to load in now and see the deploy side of it. Nix's Eye being one of the very large donut-shaped maps. Kind of following that vein of a 3-lane map, which I will explain in a second. Both teams getting a natural expansion, or natural capture point. Natural expansion, kind of a term I left over from my StarCraft days, but once the nameplates finish up for all the ships, we will introduce the players, as we have done in the past couple matches, and also their fleets, giving a little commentary on that and learning things. So, as we see here, Nix's Eye, a mighty good map. You've got one deploy side here, one deploy side here. First, we're going to see the ANS team, I believe, in blue. It should be Team 1. Yes, here we are. ANS in blue, OSP in orange, as usual. You see the C point going naturally to the ANS side, and the E point going to the OSP. So that's their 2 natural cap points. Then you get a 3-lane kind of push here, going for the B, A, and D points. So you'll see typically a group fighting over here, a group fighting over here, and a big old brawl for the midfield. Most of the time, you'll see rail or mass driver ships across the top or bottom of the map, bringing a lot of withering fire into the A point, which is usually a extreme bloodbath. You'll see people cluster up on these rocks and try and shell over top of them. That, or you'll see some brave pushes around the sort of low central asteroid here. So, this is going to be a good show, as we have a 1,500 point limit, which means that we are getting 50% more time in the game than we saw on the previous matches. So, just trusting people in good faith not to be stream sniping. I know that there is the possible chance of it, but it is kind of a respected sport, so. New to boot, if you are on the stream, I will ask you, kindly please mute the stream and simply play the game. We ask that nobody stream snipe here, kind of going by the gentleman's agreement and whatnot. So, let's take a look around the map then. So, A point is most likely going to be a very hot spot, but now, if you would all just kindly stop being little gremlins. I am perfectly capable of being a gremlin myself here. But now, I will ask that people kindly do not be little gremlins in that, but you see them, they're just doing a little bit of trolling here. I know some of these players, and they like to have a good time, so. Looks like they're going to play Nebulous. Oh, they figured it out, chat. We're playing Nebulous Fleet Command. Oh, no. I was telling people this was a Mech Warrior stream. It was secretly Titanfall all along. Anyways, we're dropping in now Nix's Eye snowy thematic as the other maps are right now. We got the festivized version of them coming out in the December season. So, seeing a torpedo corvette already. Fun. So let's just introduce the fleet here, because Firestorm decided to be with a spicy diamond formation. I believe that is 9 ships in total. We saw a 3x3 formation before, so yes. The torpedo launchers here, the cantered turret, is able to rotate and fire in the rear section. So even if you zoom by a ship, you are able to bring your torp turret around and get some nasty shots. So this is going to be a big old swarm push, if I had to guess. So Firestorm here with 9 torpedo corvettes. Here we see, what's that? How do you even say that name? I'm going to say Akan. Akan coming in here with a classic 450 BB. Got some small missile launchers here, most likely loaded with AMMs. See if we'll show you. Yep, a whole bunch of size 1s as their point defense system. A couple defender turrets to ward off any torpedoes. This is a lot of classic ANS firepower, bringing that full broadside to bear against their targets. The mighty Galactica, no less, named after the Battlestar. Over here, on the other side of the map, we have the mighty, a size 2 and size 3 mixed missile volley. So, probably going to see a bunch of, hybrid missile spam galore. Good show, as we're already seeing a couple of them being fired off towards the initial cap points. New to boot over here has a triple CL fleet. We're seeing a bunch of 250 guns on them. Good stuff. This is a classic tried and true loadout setup. You're seeing the defender turrets on these. Wonder if they have any flak. No, looks like they're foregoing flak, relying simply on the defenders to shoot down containers and other large missiles such as the torpedo type. But they are a little vulnerable to the size 2 and size 1 missiles. Still, they should be able to outmaneuver stuff. We're seeing a mighty command cruiser with Ricardo painted on the side from Spagoder. So big 450 package on here, along with a 120 side on both sides. So a lot of gun invested here in a VLS backpack. A lot of good missiles there. Whole bunch of size 2s. Yes, just classic size 2 cleanup missile. Very cheap, very effective at clearing out some of these smaller OSP ships. Seeing it escorted by just a couple of your little gun shuttle. I keep saying gun shuttle when it's a Corvette, and I keep saying Corvette when it's a shuttle. Anyways, a little bit of gunship escort here, along with a Rains frigate providing some electronic support. You've got a floodlight on that and a blanket jammer on the bottom. Just a good handy package for covering your bases. Let's go and take a look at what's on the OSP side. A big old container liner for Airborne Ninja. This is the indirect missile strike, so Mighty and Airborne Ninja going to be throwing boxes and size 2 and size 3 hybrids at each other the entire game, trying to figure out where the other one is, just trying to clean up on the various tiles of the map. So we're seeing Missile Strike and Missile Strike, just kind of a neutral boxing here as they go after whatever they could possibly find for the A point. It's a little early to be striking the A point, I think. These are not mine containers. They would indicate you as such. So instead, they're just kind of going off here, expecting a ship to be there. Instead, we're seeing the E point naturally falling into the OSP hands, and then the C point is going to go into the ANS here shortly once the flat mood moves up and caps it by the looks. That, or they may be ceding the point, instead trying to confuse the OSP team. A couple of scouting missiles now flying towards their initial formation. Let's look at the rest of the OSP team. So here we are seeing a very... What the... there it is. So we're seeing a OSP mass driver liner, the Bloodhound radar, and the mass drivers on this very power-intensive build, but 3 of these mass drivers able to fire very rapidly with most likely a bunch of energy regulators, yes, reducing the interval between shots. So this is what I was talking about. Mass driver liners, very popular to play the high side of this map, overwatching the A point, able to bring withering fire against any big target they will possibly have brought against them. Guarding it, we see a Ocello here. Oh, this is an interesting thing. So a rail Ocello. Let's see if it has a bunch of E-regs as well, just a basic CIC and bulk magazine, some small energy regulators providing it with the necessary boost to rate of fire. Very cheap on this one, actually, so this is able to inflict a lot of critical hits. Railguns are something that a lot of people write off because they don't have the same like big damage that you'll see from mass drivers, but rail criticals can be very crippling, especially when they hit a ship on the bow and will go through like 7 components, inflicting a whole bunch of atmosphere leaks and fires. So going to be interesting seeing those brought to bear. Also seeing a couple of small ships here. The kind of classic Bloodhound early warning radar pairing up on this. Does it have the... No, it does not have the intel center that you see on some other ships. Let's see. Maybe the other one does? No, oftentimes you will see monitors brought with this setup with the early warning radar and Bloodhound and the intel center inside of it, which is a combo you can do now and is very effective. For about 600 points, you can get a super good intel package to provide your team with good locks at like 14 kilometers, and also just general awareness around the map. I'll show that build off later if we have a little time left in the stream. But rounding out the team now, we have Caveman here bringing in the big guns. So we see the mighty 600mm C90 turret on the nose of this monitor. It does not mess around. Does it have a whole bunch? No, it does not actually have a whole bunch of ammo elevators. You can see these now pretty often with like 4 ammo elevators in the new loadout that you can equip, because you've got the little back slots here. If it will show me where. Yes, so you got 2 extra back slots added in the most recent patch, along with the C90 600mm cannon. So 4 ammo elevators on a 600mm cannon is nothing to scoff at. Those things can spew like 600mm rounds very fast, and they will mess up anything they hit. Okay, man, bringing in 3 of them here with a little bit of radar jamming and missiles comboed on the bottom there. Let's take a look at what Crushman has brought to bear. So we got the 450 Ocello here, classic tried and true. Sarissa's on the side with Auroras providing a very good point defense against hybrid missiles and just missiles in general. The Sarissa is able to reach out to 8 kilometers and do some good damage. Hey, Mosaman too, welcome to the stream. Thank you for the follow. Taking a look at what other things Crush has brought. He's got himself a early warning tug here, and I believe a Bloodhound. Yep, separating them so they don't require as many plant control centers, instead just relying on boosted reactors. Lastly, to round it out, we're seeing a liner here. Yep, there's the 4 mass drivers. So I will say this for chat. It is not actually good to bring 4 mass drivers. What you want to do instead is forego one of the mass drivers, instead just going 3 of them, and stack up your energy regulators. You will actually get a higher mass driver fire rate by doing that instead of going with the 4 barrels. And it saves you a lot because each of these mass drivers requires a lot of reactor power to boost. So go with 3 of those and a lot of E-regs. It will do you better. But enough nitpicking about builds and stuff now. We'll do little teaching lessons later for Nebulous. Lastly, we have Smash Grab here with their CAC Ocello command cruiser, the 450 package we'd expect, Auroras, and some Bastions for a nice little flak mixed battery here, warding off those size 2s. They've got some monitors with them. This is a classic pairing you're starting to see more and more of now, as the monitors are making very good escorts for Ocellos. I run a fleet which has a Ocello centerpiece and then 2 torpedo monitors next to it, and that is a surprise and a half. Most ANS players are not ready to be hit by like 16 torpedoes shedding decoys at once, and it is a very fun build to do. Seeing a other monitor here split off from them, a mass driver on this just providing a little bit of support fire around the map. Good stuff to see. And lastly, we have a mine deploy. Ooh, this is going to carry 4 mines onto, looks like the A point, and set that off. So let's take a little look around the map now that we've introduced all the players and their fleet. More of those scouting hybrid missiles going around. D point going into the hands of the ANS. Looks like their 3 light cruisers moved up They're expecting someone over on this side, but the OSP has done what is called a flank overload here, instead ceding the D point entirely, deciding to play instead the B and A points, going for a big stack up of their fleet here. Ooh, big missile strike coming in here on the battleship by the looks of it. We're seeing a lot of size 2s going after the fleet here. So going to see some size 2 strikes, very effective against these lighter hulls here. Ooh, mass drive is coming into bear, whiplash drive getting knocked out, blanket jammer as well. CIC reinforced is tough, but is not invincible, as we were watching the first real big missile strikes coming in from the OSP side here. Those mass drivers at this range, devastatingly accurate. Their Bloodhound radars providing them very good tracks, as we're seeing a lot of damage here. Just wham, 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 wham. I don't know if I saw an overpen go through them like that. It's entirely possible, but there was a lot of rail fire. Either way. You can see the battleship here. Luckily, it's not taking a huge amount of damage, but still, reactors getting hit, adaptive radar receivers going down as well. DC large locker being knocked out. Luckily, though, you can turn one restore into 2 if you are able to restore it and bring it back online. Still, mass drivers, nastiness getting hit here. We see a whole bunch of missiles flying in. The Corvette Swarm, although it is powerful, is vulnerable to strikes such as this, as they do not carry very much flak or AMMs. Whole bunch of those size 2s coming in now. The elevated radar signatures providing them with a lot of good targets, since the OSP is able to bring their early warning radars and detect a lot of this. Just seeing a whole bunch of containers and size 2s. Yep, they're going to tap out here. Firestorm possibly throwing in the towel a little preemptively, as a lot of missiles flying in here now. These ships will be marked as dead once they figure out which ones are which. That said, if there is adaptive radar seeker types, but I think these are just active radar by the looks of it, it is sometimes best, even if your fleet is crippled, to stay in the game, as you are able to still provide a target, and possibly the enemy will overkill them. So, let's see. They're just chit-chatting, saying that they're watching the stream. If you have been knocked out of the game and you would just like to come in and hang out, that is A-okay, but we do ask nobody to stream snipe, as that is not very cool and all that. So, seeing, again, some power plants being inflicted with debuffs here. This is a problem with certain power plants, and why rapid-fire weapons are very effective against things such as mass driver or rail ships. Being able to knock the power plant with a critical hit that reduces efficiency by 50% is very important, especially for ships that toe the line very tightly on their power. So, seeing the battleship here, unfortunately left without its escort, is going to have to solo cap the B point. That said, a lot of the OSP team is over top, so they will not have a line of fire on it shortly. It is just having to get around the corner now, as we see all these railgun shots coming into it now. The railguns here able to penetrate through armor. I don't remember exactly what their rail penetration value is, but I think you can go through like 200 centimeters of armor or something ridiculous. Basically, their AP value is yes, and we're just going to see mass drivers and rail pepper this thing until it's able to get around the corner onto the safety of the B point. The flank overload paying dividends here, as most of the OSP firepower is able to knock out those corvettes and then eventually take out the battleship, or at least bring it low. Of course, the battleship antenna, a big vulnerability. The CR-75 is the only antenna on this, unlike the ships that are of smaller caliber, such as the Axford, which happens to have a CR-10 and CR-75 antenna. Here we're seeing a bunch of container boxes, a mixed volley here, a jamming box leading the way along with a bunch of clever boxes. I'm not sure exactly what the Seeker combo is, but we're seeing the mixed volleys of the OSP being brought against the ANS right now. Let's see if the AMMs are keyed to fire against them or not. Possible manual fire may be called for. Oop, they have locked onto their target now, as we see an AMM being fired off to counter a little bit here. Defenders having to fire. Defenders not firing. Oh no, they must have turned off their radar. Defenders do not fire without the radar on. That is some big hits on the battleship, as it is getting same-day delivery. Oof. Seeing the reactors now, critical events going on here, as they will have to rapidly scramble around the ship and fix their stuff. Battleship is wounded, but not out of the game, as battleships are notoriously hard to kill. That said, another good container follow-up strike coming in now. Once you see one strike, there's bound to be a second one following as soon as they see those boxes go through. So yes, you see the jamming box here, jamming the enemy radar. That could possibly be why the defenders are not firing. Ooh, this is going to be a big strike. AMM's trying to fire at the last second. Wham, 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 wham. Luckily, though, high explosive impact is not able to knock out certain systems, but we are seeing a huge number of knocked out systems here now. There's the reinforced systems that are somewhere on board the ship, if I can find them. Yes, the reinforced magazines. They are not able to be knocked out by high explosive impact, not breaking that damage threshold. But still, we're seeing the reactors here brought heavily low. Large lockers taken out of the fight. Radar panels trying to be brought back online. Unfortunately, the battleship is blind to the incoming fire, as now the Ocello comes around the corner and the 600mm gun of its escort as well being brought to bear onto target. The 600 is the real threat here, as that has enough damage to break the threshold of certain components like the reinforced magazines and CIC. Where is this thing CIC? I cannot see it amongst all this stuff. Triple magazines on this thing. Dang, they brought ammo for days. There's the Citadel CIC central of the ship. if that thing does get booped, it can be brought back online. But, ooh, unfortunately, no. All of the... ooh, is that it out? That is it out. A lucky shot hits the compartment that the CIC was stored in, and that is a dead battleship brought low, heavily hamstrung by the rail and mass driver fire, then the devastating missile strike when it was jammed and disabled as the various components had been knocked out and grayed out. Now the kill shots brought in as the Arcadian Hope and the, what is that, the Luminous Cloud? Yes, delivering the kill shot to the battleship. So, big flank overload paying due there as we see, ooh, missile strikes coming in now. A couple of them squirming off. Boom, that managed to hit the backside. So, good hit on the reinforced drive. That said, it is a reinforced drive, so it is a tough cookie to crack. Tough cookie to crack. Wait, hang on. I meant to say tough nut to crack. I'm not sure how I got a cookie in there. I think I must want cookies. Okay, well, we'll just think about cookies for a little bit, Chaz. We watch more hybrid missiles flinging in here now. Good damage being inflicted. Caveman still able to recover decently from this, so there is a good chunk of damage, but these are not a lot of knocked out components. The mount gyro is not essential, neither are the pinpoint or track correlators, so they can get away with losing those systems, but we're seeing now more size 2 missiles being launched out. Ooh, looks like the Galactica reactor cooked off here, so did they get within range? Yes, they did. Ooh, all of the armor gone on the escort. Cargo feeders rely a lot on their armor to survive. Also, the Ocello being brought low here. Its armor just nigh completely stripped off. You see heavy strip damage being inflicted here. A little less on the other side, but it is just completely toasted now. See some size 1 missiles trying to counter volley. These containers have got a lock. What are they firing on? Ooh, all right, we've got Will Smith's Thunderous Slap here. Looks like they've got a whole bunch of containers firing directly. Just the Boxy Ache from Airborne Ninja delivering everything it's got. AMMs flying out as it's missile-on-missile warfare here in the midfield. They're just rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock, whatevering here, trying to devastate the enemy with whatever they got. A couple of the containers going wide, missing, being seduced by soft kill, or just turning off the radar systems if they're ARAD. Looks like we might get some box hits. Ooh, big box hits on the nose. You're gonna see some more firing off here on the edge here. Yes, smart plays reducing the incoming boxes by keeping the radar on one of your escorts and turning it off on the main ships. This way, you're also able to convey radar tracking to the other ships in your fleet. Still, the main gun on the Axford unfortunately knocked out the berthings in the front of the ship, taking heavy damage along with the top side. No, those are the side turrets. So, the Axford able to survive a box or two, but let's see how many more they have. The mass driver is now bearing on to target. This is a bad place to be for this Axford as we see all that OSP firepower coming to bear from the top of the map. These things sitting outside of ANS radar range are very dangerous because if you can't see them, you can't hit them. See, now, again, more boxes being launched. How many boxes does the container liner have? The answer is a lot. Seeing many of its racks being expended and emptied now. I'd say it's down to maybe 40% of its total ammunition. Yeah, getting pretty low there. See, 66 and 41. So quite a few of its blocks. Let's say it's expended about half its payload. A lot of boxes now being fired off, still trying to kill off that Axford command and its escorting fleet. They're being pushed back from the A-point. A-point securely staying in the OSP's hand. That said, hybrids in retaliation being fired out, looking at the general area there. Not having an exact lock, they have to kind of eyeball it and guess where it's going to be. You see containers locking on to the main command ship here. Will their hard kill work or not? Let's see. Defenders do not have line of fire. Ooh, this is got to be tight. And ooh, a lot of shots to the chin here. Wham, 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 wham. That is a lot of pain. Big missile strike coming in now as they just direct fire onto the Axford. This thing is getting heavily hit here. That said, Axfords are notoriously hard to kill, although this is a lot of missile fire coming in. See some size 2s as well from the flank just to spite. They might be going wide instead hitting the escort fleet. Yep, looks like they're going after them. Probably ARAD Seekers targeting live ships. Yep, couple of hits onto the Corvette here. Still, ooh, Will Smith's Thunderous Slap unfortunately burns down some systems, getting crit out by the incoming 450 fire and the mass driver support here. So that is a dead command ship again. ANS on the back foot heavily here. Mighty is expending all of the missiles they possibly can, sending out those size 2 hybrids against anything that shows its face on the map. More containers being fired across the various ships here. That said, containers are not the fastest turning, so if you're able to maneuver quickly with your corvettes and escort ships, you can quickly get out of the line of fire. That said, you're seeing now more shots being fired in from the B point. Bam, 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 bam. That is a lot of damage being dealt. So, and we're seeing the CLs trying to maneuver around the side of the map. They expected there to be something here. I don't think that they clued in that the OSP completely ceded the D side. Now these ANS ships trying to find their way back into the game, although they have been so far outside of the game, they might as well be destroyed. The OSP flank overload paying dividends here as their triple cap is putting them into the lead. 272 points at 290. That is going to quickly equalize and then be overtaken. 1,500 point game though, so we may see a total destruction of ANS before they end up getting a cap lead. Here we see the size 2 hybrid volley being fired out, trying to eyeball roughly where the mass drivers are coming from. I wouldn't be surprised if they're putting a bunch of target markers saying, hey, it's over here, and then just trying to guess where the railfire is coming from. Even though you can't see the actual track, you can still put markers roughly on the elevation where you see them coming from, which is very important. So, let's see. So, OSP currently controlling the B point with the Arcadian Hope here, heavily toasted. So if some guns like the 250s from the light cruisers are able to get target lock on these, they will go down very quickly as there is no armor to prevent them. Let's see. So we're seeing now the rail ship trying to bear onto target as it's trying to pepper away the last of the fleet here. It's bang, 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 bang. Yep. Here we see the ANS Fee. Oh, that's kind of interesting. ANS color scheme on an OSP ship. This is one of the default fleet color schemes you can go with. There's the default loaded ANS and the default loaded OSP. Personally, I think it's kind of funny when you see the ANS colors on the OSP and likewise the OSP colors on the ANS. It's just like one of those little kind of head-scratcher moments. You're like, huh, that's not right. But seeing the ANS has unfortunately lost 3 of its fleets here, is down to the CLs to carry the remainder of the game. It is possible, as a good CL flank can do devastating damage, and a lot of size 2 missiles can inflict heavy damage against some of the ships here. That said, we're not seeing spiral pathing being done. The Sarissas being very effective against unspiral path missiles. Spiral pathing is a technique where you path your missile like every kilometer or so. You just kind of jitter it around. Makes it so a Sarissa shot that is fired against it will unfortunately miss, as the missile is just kind of jittering and wiggling on its way to the target. So that's it. The ANS Fee boldly driving up forwards here, uncontested, taking the A point. The C point is most likely going to fall next, as the OSP is going to push heavily forward towards it. The only thing defending it, the flat mood, the CL with a missile and a dream. Let's see, what does it have left? It's got some chaff blocks and size 1 missiles. A couple defensive there. Most of its payload has been expended. That said, it does still have some size 3s in the tank. I would not be surprised if those are size 3 HEC-Ps. HEC-P is a special type of missile versus the conventional high explosive impact, which does a big explosion with scattering rays. High explosive kinetic penetrator, or HEC-P for short, is essentially a high accelerated spear that just launches a lunk of metal down the length of a ship. So if you hit a ship on the nose, you can stem to stern that thing, and it is devastating. You might see a ship like the Ocello almost one-shot by a very good HEC-P strike. So they have to be moderately cautious, as they do know there is missile strikes still left on the map. A bunch of those missiles coming out now. Let's see those Addle-Addles come out and play. Just gonna quickly path through the snow here. Oop, that's a little close. Oh, unfortunately, rock best PD. Oh, that's rough, buddy. Oh, you hate to see that. This is one of the unfortunate natures of the snow here. You're not exactly sure where the rock is on this, so sometimes you have to path a little wider than you think. Just talking about this and the trust in that. So I think in this case, it was just the OSP correctly playing and deciding to overload a flank. The ANS unfortunately strung out, essentially down to just 1 fleet here, combat effective, as the last ones here. Yeah. We're seeing the ones here firing off their missiles. A little bit of the complaints going on in chat, naturally to be expected in any game, but I asked beforehand if they were okay with me casting, and they said yes, so. Seeing the ANS coming up now with their fleet, trying to burn at whatever speed they can to get a couple bits of damage done. There's still the possibility that the OSP fleet will throw here. Do not write the game off just because the ANS is completely on the back foot. I have seen many CL fleets do heavy damage against overconfident teams that have decided to split up and try and full cap the game. So the E point does have a number of mines left on it, so they have to be careful if they decide to fly down there. Instead, I'm expecting them to come up top here and then just try and wipe out any of the mass drivers that may be a little too comfortable hiding on this top side of the map. Alrighty. Seeing just a couple ships here, just kind of like trying to scout out, scan around, see what may possibly be left. You see them firing on dead ships here, although they don't necessarily know they are dead ships or not. It may say evacuated, or they may have false intel. There is still a intel margin of error on these. Well, that's interesting. They're still making noises for their weapons. Huh. That is odd. Normally the noises on this stop when the ship has been knocked out proper, but let's take a look around then. We're seeing the container liner here still has a couple boxes left. I'm expecting them to try and hunt down the flat mood, although it looks like it is moving out of the combat space. This is the correct move if we are playing the Conquest game mode, which is something upcoming. It's a sort of lengthy campaign mission system where you can have battles like this, but then it plays out on a larger statistic. Think of it like a total war game almost, where this would be an individual battle, and then you've got like kind of a grand strategy campaign going around. So I'm looking very forward to that because it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun coordinating games where you have like multiple players sort of like join in and you decide, hey, I'm going to send my battle group off to like this system and contest these lands. And then you have other people like kind of tune in and decide, hey, everyone want to get together Friday night, have like a battle match, and we'll see how the war progresses. That way you'll see various ships like this, like the Flat Mood, expend its payload and then run back to port, rearm, and then come back into another fight. That said, I've been on the sort of CL method here, where you look at the 250 CLs just trying to get around the map and find somebody, and sometimes you just get a bad lane, and it's like, well, there's nobody over here, so I guess that's just my luck. We're watching them now trying to move around the side of the map to get a couple shots in this game. I don't believe that they've actually gotten a chance to expend any of their ammo, no. So OSP was smart in seeding the D side and just deciding to stack up on A and B, and then they had a very good overload on that flank there, watching all of those not frigates, what am I saying? All of those corvettes go down, and then the battleship be brought low by coordinated fire. So, seeing the A point push now creeping towards the C point. I don't believe that the Flat Mood has any more missiles in it, so nope, just chaff and a couple of size 1 defensives, which I don't think you can actually fire at ships, but see, maybe a bit of some ships going off here. Shooting at the container liner, we'll see. They're just kind of blown up in chat as the game is, I'm not going to say completely decided, but there's just a bit of dead time here as they are now taking the time to actually fire. I don't believe they know what the ship is, otherwise they'd be firing AP. HE does not, unfortunately, have enough penetration power to get through the cargo feeder's heavily, I believe, 48 centimeter armor. So, you see them now turning and rotating. You see them just getting lightly peppered here. Maybe a little bit of damage will go through here and there, but most of those shots just impacting the surface and not dealing damage. See it now turning as the shots here going wide as it has to correct its course. At this range, I believe it's about, I want to call that like roughly 8 kilometers or so. Pretty much the maximum range of guns here. They're trying to turn and hit them. You see New to Boot here. He's like trying to figure out what is he shooting at. The cargo feeder has a surprising amount of toughness, given it is a very small ship and has very thick armor. That said, when you get hit by something like a HEC-P missile on the nose, you will rapidly undo any construction of that ship. HEC-P is very effective against anything with its bow to you, and given that it is built around a big spinal gun, much like the ANS Destroyer, well, you will probably hit this thing on the snoot. Here it's see it angrily turning around, trying to bring that mass driver. Seeing the ANS ships now, they're turning and burning. Ooh, unfortunately now it looks like the mass drivers from other ships have woken up and found where they are. Where was that shot coming from, actually? It's not you, it's not you. I saw mass drivers somewhere. Where were those from? It's not that ship. That thing is masked. Oh, I know. It must have been the rails. Yes, so the rail shots here. Funnily enough, against rails, normally as a CL, you want to bow tank targets. However, against rails, because they will simply just go through the front of your ship and then core out the entirety of it, possibly even going out the backside through the big whiplash drive, you actually want to be more or less broadside facing against rail ships. So while it may seem unconventional, this is the right play to make against those rail ships, because rails are generally pretty accurate and also very fast and will stem to stern you. That said, against mass drivers, you will suffer heavily from that. So you do want to bow tank mass drivers, as they have a bit more margin of error than the railguns do. And they are using a scatter damage, much like missiles, instead of the simple, like, kind of long punch through. That said, we are seeing the rails starting to rack up their effectiveness as various fires are started across these ships now. They're trying to rotate onto target. Now, a mass driver ship like this must stay out of range. Ooh, that's a big container volley. That said, I believe that they have the counter to this, which is, yes, a whole bunch of defenders. Defenders very good against the size 3 and size 4 missiles, being the is 4 here, the containers. Let's see what they bring to bear. Now, defenders are spoofed by decoys, and it's entirely possible that there's a bunch of decoy launchers in this which shed little decoy flares that they instead target. That said, these shots appear to be kind of going wide. Oop, there's the turn and bank at the last second. All the defenders firing off now as they try and shoot down incoming rounds here. They are not firing soon enough. Oop, this is going to be tight. Wham. Ooh, looks like the defenders probably had their radars turned off to try and spoof the targeting, which unfortunately means that the turrets will not fire. That said, this is good, as the crippled ship is taking most of the fire here. Whole bunch of the volley going in as they have to sacrifice one of their ships, the others quickly sliding behind it. This means that most of the containers that have just been full YOLO sent here will instead go into a already dead ship, overkilling it horrendously. See one of them trying to turn off here. Will it get defendered? It's going to be close. That's a good kill there. So this is the sacrificial technique you must sometimes do, deciding that, yes, I am going to burn one of my ships rather than all 3 of them. It is a unfortunate truth of the kind of nature of missile volleys, where you have to just expect that sometimes they're going to get through. But we see Mighty over here. I believe that the Mighty, yes, it did disengage from the battle space, leaving the board completely. So now we're seeing New Deboot giving the last hurrah as their ships are unfortunately crippled, but still 2 healthy cruisers actually remaining in the game. Although the, what is this? The Rue, yes, unfortunately it is ruining the day. You see all the fires and drive problems across the ship. 1 damage control team left over as there was a huge amount of damage. Now they have a bit of a problem, which is that the reactors are overloading. They have fuel line fires and the magazine is cooking off. So suffice to say, I don't think we're going to see this ship around for very much longer. That said, 2 healthy CLs and not many containers left, I don't think. Let's see. Yep, just a couple of boxes being left here as they are still firing off a few more of these. That said, unless these are a very good coordinated strike, we are probably going to see these CLs be all right. If they bring their nose to bear on that container liner where they can most likely see it now, they will have 4 defenders each firing for 8 total. 8 defenders is nothing to scoff at, especially against container strikes. You see them now trying to get onto the CLs and struggling. Ooh, will they reload in time? No, unfortunately not, as they get booped there. So you have to keep your radars on, and we see the drives getting disabled here. This is the downside. ARAD very effective at finding ships with radars on, since it is, of course, a radar-seeking type. But now with the radars turned on, the fire control able to task targets, it is firing away all of its defender shots. Any container like this is generally shot down unless you can coordinate a double strike, which is where you send some of your missiles out and then have them do a little loop to group up with another volley of missiles, basically doubling your amount fired in a very short given time. That said, though, we're seeing just defenders chew through all of these as the support containers, unfortunately, not being with this volley. Let's see. Are they still in the game? Ooh, there's that reactor explosion that we were talking about. So now this ship heavily brought low. The Whiplash and Dragonfly drives are almost out of it. That said, they can chain restore here. As long as they scram their reactors in time and restore their large locker to bring the various other systems back online, they could be in the game. But New Deboot deciding to throw in the towel, not liking the odds facing off against them, that will be a win for the OSP here, showing the power of a coordinated flank overload, deciding to only play 2 lanes of the map instead of the full 3. So going to be a GG, well played. Thank you everyone for playing. Yeah, it's a good showing from everyone in this game. Yeah, you see the container liner delivering a good salvo there, 44k damage. Let's take a look at the other missile strike ship. So unfortunately, hybrid missiles, ARAD Act being either missing targets because they weren't ever really able to get a good lock on the positions there, or being hard killed by a bunch of the good defenses that they had, namely the Ocellos being a very good point defense screen. Thank you, everyone, for playing. I have been NekoboyBlue. We have a little bit of time left. I was going to pass you off to Doc Vivi, who's doing some viewer games shortly, but for right now, we're going to talk a little bit about Nebulous-y stuff, since we have the fleet editor here, and I'm just going to walk through a little bit of some of the mechanics, since we saw some things that were a little bit, I'm not going to say that they're bad, but just a bit suboptimal, although there is certain reasons to bring them. So let's just go ahead and load up a fleet such as these. I think these are some of the modern version of these. Yes, more or less. So, all right, we're going to show you the tuna melt and the salmon salad. So, today, kids, we're going to teach you how to build an Ocello. So, the Ocello is a command ship meant for the OSP side, and it is very good at what it does. This is comparable to the Axford on the Alliance team, although it does play a little bit more like a Vauxhall than an Axford does. It's kind of a nice midway point between the 2 hulls. It does not have the same armor of an Axford. The Axford, I believe, has 40 or 42 centimeters of armor. But either way, it's a more heavily armored ship with nice surfaces, giving it a good survivability rate. That said, the Ocello is a very mean ship because from the front, if you look at it here, you see 1, 2, 3, 4 barrels, 1, 2 barrels on the bottom. So you got 6 barrels total compared to a Axford from the front. If we'll just load up a ANS ship right now, Axford Intel should work. Just compare this bow tanking to a Axford command cruiser. I keep getting the names mixed up, command cruiser, heavy cruiser. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 barrels for the Axford. So in a bow tank versus bow tank fight, the Ocello is slightly favored as it does have more turrets able to fire, or rather, more barrels able to fire on the enemy, 6 being bigger than 5, and both of them able to bring about 5 ammo elevators, which is generally the maximum effective number you're going to want for 5. You get heavily diminishing returns after 5 to the point where paying for the 6th one, you're really paying for redundancy in that case. In case one of them gets knocked out, you can still keep your 5 ammo elevator buff. But back to my point about building a good Axford, good Ocello. You know, I'm just going to get all the names back with this stream. I think that's how we're going to go about it. All right. So, to my point, one of the things you very much want to bring on this ship is the Aurora defense turrets. You can see how I've got them spaced around the ship here, 1 on the tail, 1 on top, and then 1 on each side. This gives me 360 degrees coverage, allowing me to effectively shoot down incoming hybrids. The Aurora is very effective against hybrids. If you need to, you can activate Battle Short, which lets them just constantly fire, even when it will damage the turret. If it's a 40% chance per shot after the, or maybe it's 40% per second to damage it, but You have to remember, getting hit by a missile is generally more damage than the battle short is inflicted upon your Aurora point defense turret. Also, battle shorting will not knock out the defense system, so you can't always bring it back online. So, with that said, though, you want to bring Auroras, or Cervizas in some cases, on your Acellos. They are very good at screening against enemy missile hybrid strikes. The other thing you want to bring is a big drive. So, the unique thing about the Acello is that it brings both the Alliance tech, which in this case would be things like the Aurora, and the OSP tech. It's a hybrid of both types. So this means you can get things like the OSP's boosted reactor with its 5,000 kilowatts power output, along with things like the Yard drive, providing a little bit of a top speed debuff, but also a big boost to turn rate and angular thrust. Now, we've seen before some people deciding to go for the Sun drive in the backside of this. Now, the Sun drive, you might look at this and say, oh, it gives you a little bit of power and a huge top speed boost and also flank damage reduction. The downside to this, take a look at this, 100 hit points, damage threshold 30. It is very fragile. You compare this to a big Whiplash drive, which has 1,000 health. That is a lot of health to get through. Now compared against a 500 reinforced drive, that's 1,500 health. This is 10 or 15 times more health than a Sun drive. Just because you want that top speed, don't be fooled by the Sun drive. If you're going to take a Sun drive, it's just a secondary little backup thing. So you probably go with like a big reactor and then a big drive, and then you can take the Sun drive if you really want to like have something to go fast in the early game. The Sun drive, though, literally, it's basically just going to get looked at slightly because it is a very big hitbox area, and you're going to get tapped there. And if it's only your drive, if it is your only drive on the ship, you are going to be immobilized quickly. So don't be a fool, take a big drive. Personally, I like the Raider drives as linear thrust is very nice. You can play a good range advantage, typically about 9 kilometers. You can shoot people at with your 450s reasonably accurately. I say 9 kilometers because you can also take the Bullseye fire control radar, which goes out to conveniently 9 kilometers. This lets you keep at range and do something called orbit dodging, where you're just kind of moving around the ship and being very elusive. The linear thrust bonuses from the Raider drive allowing you to quickly accelerate and decelerate. It's a technique called, I believe the technical term for it is jink, which is rapidly changing your velocity and heading, basically making you nigh impossible to hit unless the enemy closes the distance because of projectile travel time. So, don't be a fool. Bring a big 500 drive in your Acello. I am just getting the name wrong. I think it's a meme at this point. Yeah. Also in your Axford, bring a big drive. I've seen some people get fooled into bringing like the small Whiplash drive because if you compare the stats on it, you see 20% speed bonus versus the big ones, only 15%. Don't be fooled by this because the damage threshold is a lot lower, meaning it's a lot easier to knock out. Damage threshold is the amount of damage needing to be inflicted to the drive when it is at 0 hit points to actually gray it out. Compared to, say, the Dragonfly, where you've got 70 damage threshold, and then this is also reduced by the component damage reduction, so the ship has a 40% damage reduction to all of its components. So if I deal 100 damage to its components, I'm actually only dealing 60. This is a very important thing about what can and cannot gray out certain components here. So bring a 500 drive. Even if you're unsure on the ship, just bring a 500 reinforced drive. It is the safest option you can take. It is pretty much impossible to kill this thing unless you are like directly firing on it with AP. And even then, sometimes you'll just get like random shots that whiz by and miss. So yeah, if you want to be safe, reinforced drive, it's good. That said, you can get one of the buff drives. It's your choice of flavor. Whiplash drive, if you like that top speed, cruising around at flank speed and just going quick, does cut into your turn rate and angular thrust, which is a little bit annoying because you do want to keep the nose towards the enemy. Dragonfly drive is great if you just want the like easy use version. This improves your turn rate, which is how fast the ship rolls, and your angular thrust, which decides where the nose will go, like when you're turning left or up and down. Left, right, up, down, that is angular. And then you've got lastly, the Raider drive, which is your linear, which is deciding when you want to move in a straight direction, like strafing. So, don't be a fool. Don't take a Sun drive in your big slot. Take the 500s. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Yeah. Anyways, other things about this, you have to consider where you put your components and stuff. I like to hide the CIC in the pancake stack along with the reinforced magazine. This is the safe part of the ship because if we take a look at the Acello here, right? 30 centimeters of armor is not a whole lot because when you hit this thing from the side, small weapons will penetrate through. Whether it's 120 or 250, it can punch through the side armor. But if you present the very thin target profile forward-facing like this is almost like a larger voxel. This thing is hard to hit. If you keep your bow towards the enemy using the heading command, you can be very hard to knock out. Plus, you have all of your guns facing the enemy and almost all of your point defense. A bow tanking Acello is a good Acello. So keep your nose towards the enemy and you will survive. Now, with that said, there are exceptions which are very specific. 90% of the time, you will want to bow tank the enemy. The 10% is when you're facing like a HECP missile, which, well, you're probably going to get hit on the snoot because that's most likely where it's showing up. Or if you're facing against railguns, in which case you want to offset yourself to the side, so the railgun will just punch through and go at the other side, instead of going stem to stern all the way through the ship, knocking out every one of your components. So, just a little bit of a guide there. Also, the front side of the ship, generally this is expendable. I've got like some damage control centrals and reinforced lockers because they have a lot of health here, and I can generally do without these if they get knocked out by incoming fire. But yeah, the backside is the safe, where you want to put like your reactors and things. I have managed to tuck a micro-reactor between these two turrets, which is pretty good, but... Anyways, I think we're going to go raid Vivi now. She should be starting up shortly. So I have been NekoboyBlue. Thank you for coming to my stream and whatnot. Just need to refresh the page and make it so I can actually raid people, since Twitch's updating thing is a little bit silly about that. That's interesting. It's showing her twice on my raidables list. I don't know why that is, but okay, either way. We're going to go raid Vivi. I will be along to her channel shortly to show up and be a nuisance. Yeah, we'll probably get in another game of Nebulous there, where I will actually be playing instead of just casting. So if you like Nebulous content, you can follow my channel and my Twitter. I post notifications when I'm going live, and I have a weekly schedule. I think I'm going to play more Neb on Friday or Saturday, maybe try and get some more casted games in if we get some events going in that. Yeah, you have been wonderful, chat. Thank you for coming out. I have been NekoboyBlue. I'm going to pass you out to Vivi. Bye!